It all started on a perfectly normal day for Earth, a nice little blue marble, when a massive beam of energy just slammed into the planet out of nowhere, and suddenly a giant tower of light erupts in the middle of a city. Everyone's phones start blaring with emergency alerts, the helpful kind, while civilians are just staring up as the sky burns, completely helpless, because a literal paragon of destruction, this massive dragon, has just arrived. And the city is immediately engulfed in flames as it goes on a rampage, yet one kid, just one, stands his ground against this city-sized beast. This thing looks absolutely furious, ready to vaporize anything in its path, but our boy Kurabohi Gui is not backing down, vowing he will not lose. He has lived with stubborn pride for 15 years, a real tough guy act. And on this day, that pride gets him eaten, a real short story. So rewind 10 years, and we see how this whole mess actually started. When thousands of alien life forms called Evas just dropped from space, humanity's weapons were completely useless against them, a total curb-stomp battle. But ironically, the Evas scattered a cosmic substance that awakened human abilities. This gave humanity a fighting chance, letting them punch back with superpowers, which brings us to the present at the 8th Special Forces Training School. This top academy for kids with exceptional alpha abilities, the best of the best. And our boy Gui, somehow not digested, is now a student here too. So here is Gui, a bright-eyed student at the academy ready to take on the world. Except psych, he is actually just the part-time janitor, a real glowdown. Immediately, some top-tier jerks try to make him their personal trash boy, because society now runs on a power ranking pyramid from F rank all the way to S, and our boy Gui is so special he is not even on the chart, completely unranked. But he is not taking that disrespect, crushing the can with some serious intent, telling the bully to throw away his own garbage because rank does not mean a thing. He's got no intention of losing this fight, ready to throw down right now. And he gets absolutely folded in about 2 seconds flat, a true warrior's end. This rank bully pins him down, reminding him that unranked trash does not give orders, then summons a fireball to teach him a very hands-on lesson about supremacy. Just as he is about to get roasted, the flames are instantly frozen solid, leaving Gui holding a literal ball of fire ice, completely bewildered. Both of them are looking around like idiots, wondering who just crashed their party, when a girl appears, scolding the bully for wasting his powers on a civilian. This is Hyoga Orin, an S-rank elite known as the Ice Wall Witch, and the bully immediately gets defensive, calling her out for being a hypocrite. She ignores him, kneels down, and tells Gui he should not defy his superiors, then adds that in an emergency, the strong are literally allowed to kill the weak. Hearing this, Gui just gets this dark, calculating little smile on his face. Instead of being intimidated, Gui just hands her the can, thanking her for the assist, then drops a whole life lesson, saying a person's worth comes from their actions, not rank. With that, he announces his grand purpose is to support the heroes by cleaning, a true calling. Hyoga is just completely short-circuiting, wondering what kind of weirdo she just met, and our boy just waves goodbye, leaving the S-rank elite totally bewildered in his wake. This whole philosophy, by the way, comes from a flashback 8 years ago, when a little Gui was crying to his mom about being bullied for having no powers. She tells him that what you have does not matter, it is what you do that defines you. Holding his hands, she encourages him to find his own way to be useful to others, and the words sink in, a core memory being forged right there in that sunny field. Little Gui lights up, promising his mom he will give it his absolute best shot, as her voice echoes, telling him to do his best, a perfect, happy memory, right? Wrong, because the next scene is his mom unconscious in a hospital bed. A doctor explains her body is rejecting her own alpha ability, and there is no cure available. Meanwhile, 2 nurses gossip about the worthless, unranked mother and her equally unranked kid. Standing alone, Gui questions this whole broken system built on ranks and superpowers, screaming that they do not get to decide his or his mother's worth, he will prove it himself. Which brings us back to the present, where he is proving it by mopping with extreme prejudice. He channels that righteous fury into wiping down windows like his life depends on it. Even the toilets are not safe from his high-octane, purpose-driven scrubbing, a true warrior. He is so committed to his new purpose he considers cleaning the entire campus, one urinal at a time, then steps outside and sees the elite students starting their combat training, deciding to watch. Their practice targets are these nasty-looking, purple-glowing EVA monsters ready for a fight. An instructor explains that since they are all B rank or higher, they have 1 minute to beat a C-class EVA. With a roar, the cage bursts open and a spider-like alien lunges out to start the test. Immediately, some guy launches a mega flare while a girl throws up an absolute ice wall, their powers clashing in these huge, flashy energy crests because subtlety is for the unranked. All the other students are just gushing, already convinced they could take on S-class threats no problem. From a distance, Gui just watches these future heroes celebrate their one-hit victory over a frozen EVA. One of the students spots him, acting all surprised like, "Oops, did you see how cool we are?" Just as Gui is about to finally throw out the trash, a massive beam of light rips through the sky, which then slams directly into the city, creating a catastrophic explosion on the horizon. This shockwave sends our boy flying, completely bewildered by the apocalypse interrupting his chores. Emergency warnings start blaring across the school as the sky turns a lovely shade of doom. And right on cue, a massive dragon EVA appears, the very same one from the start of this whole mess. Gui is just frozen solid, staring up at this absolute unit of a monster, completely terrified. This other students, however, just laugh, calling the dragon a fool for attacking an academy of elites. That a rank bully from before gets all hyped, rallying everyone to go exterminate the idiot creature. Hyuga desperately tries to stop them, screaming that they are not even in formation yet. But they charge in anyway, completely ignoring her for a shot at glory and a quick rank up. The students immediately launch their signature moves like Mega Flare and Thunder Arrow, all flash, zero teamwork, and their combined powers slam directly into the dragon's chest in a massive light show. Convinced it is working, the whole group cheers and pours on even more power, which culminates in a gigantic explosion that completely engulfs the monster. Meanwhile, Gui is watching from a safe distance, using a trash can lid as a shield priorities, and he still gets sent flying by the shockwave, never letting go of his janitorial gear. As the smoke begins to clear, the students are already getting ready for their victory lap, and there they are, celebrating like they just saved the world instead of poking a god. But through the dust, the dragon's chest glows with an ominous blue light, completely unscratched. It emerges from the smoke looking less defeated and more mildly annoyed, leaving the rank bully speechless, realizing their ultimate attacks did absolutely nothing. In response, the dragon starts charging a massive beam in its mouth to return the favor. So Hyuga, the only one with a functioning brain, screams for everyone to get behind her, throwing up her signature, Absolute Ice Wall, to shield the overconfident idiots. This dragon unleashes a torrent of energy that slams into her defense with devastating force, sending all those glory-seeking students flying like ragdolls from the sheer impact. Its beam just tears right through the ice, a pretty clear sign they are completely outclassed. Hyuga's wall begins to crack and splinter under the overwhelming pressure. And then the entire shield just shatters into a million pieces, completely obliterated, leaving her thrown backwards as her ultimate defense fails, with everyone now totally exposed. Gui picks himself up from the blast, his head still ringing from the sheer force of the attack, looking up to see the dragon hovering over a field of totally defeated elite students. And our boy is in total disbelief. The Academy's best just got absolutely one-shotted. Hyuga then recognizes the monster as the same one that leveled Tokyo 8 years ago. Realizing this is the strongest EVA species, and the only smart move is to run for your life. But Gui just stands there, completely frozen by the overwhelming terror of it all, while all that big talk from the rank bully vanishes as he and his friends immediately book it. Hyuga tries to rally the cowards, screaming that the strong are supposed to protect people, not flee. But her words are lost on the bully, who is now just screaming for someone to save him. What a hero. And his heroic journey ends right there, getting chomped by the dragon like a little appetizer, which just swallows him whole without even bothering to chew, a real gourmet experience. This monster just glares down, completely unfazed, as if it is just getting warmed up, leaving Hyuga paralyzed with horror, finally realizing this thing actually eats people. Now she is completely alone on the battlefield, with the dragon's massive shadow swallowing her whole. And just to make things worse, it reveals a second mouth inside its first. Nope, not creepy at all. She is completely out of options, just staring up at her impending double-mouthed doom, when suddenly a foot slams down right in front of her. It is Gui, of all people. And our boy's brilliant plan is to throw a bag of trash directly at the city-destroying dragon, which splatters across its face, doing less than zero damage but definitely getting its attention. He then scoops up the S-rank elite, telling her it is time to get the hell out of there. Gui books it with Hyuga on his back, the dragon roaring after them with a face full of garbage, and his brilliant escape plan is to hide in the sewers, a place he knows well from cleaning them. Just as they disappear underground, the massive Eva stomps past, completely oblivious. And it is looking absolutely furious about getting trashed by an unranked nobody. Down in the tunnels, Hyuga cannot understand why a powerless janitor would be so reckless, but Gui just says he did what he could because that is what you are supposed to do. Then drops another life lesson, explaining you do not need an alpha ability to help people. This completely floors the S-rank elite, who just quietly thanks him for saving her life. With that, they are off again, sprinting through the sewer system towards a shelter entrance. Popping the manhole cover like a pro, he gets them back to the surface and into the open. And right on cue, there is the shelter entrance, a perfect fortified safe haven. Except the blast doors are already closing, with guards inside sealing it up for good. Gui rushes forward with Hyuga, screaming for them to wait and let them in. But the guards just yell back that they are full, telling them to go find shelter somewhere else. Just as they are about to be shut out, one of the guards suddenly recognizes someone. He spots Hyuga, the S-rank student, and immediately orders everyone to make room for her. Both of them just share this look of pure relief, thinking they are finally safe. They start to head inside, thanking the guards for letting them in at the last second. When one of the guards shoves Gui back, telling him he is not allowed inside, what a twist. They recognize him as the unranked janitor and tell him there is no room for trash like him. Gui is just stunned on the ground, while Hyuga looks absolutely furious at the guard's decision. She immediately pleads with them, screaming that this unranked trash is the one who saved her life. Hyuga even offers to give up her own spot, trying to physically pull Gui into the shelter with her. Then she pulls the rank card, declaring it is an order from a superior, using the very system she hates. But our boy just shoves her forward, making the choice for her and pushing her towards safety. This head guard could not care less, yelling that the strongest Eva is here and they need to close the door now. With his jaw clenched tight, Gui makes a split-second, world-changing decision. He throws Hyuga the rest of the way into the shelter, sacrificing himself to save her. She looks back in absolute shock, completely unable to process what he has just done. He just tells her that rank and alpha abilities do not matter in the end, then gives a confident thumbs up, saying a person's worth is defined by their actions. Hyoga reaches for him, screaming for him to wait as the massive doors begin to slide shut, and with a final deafening boom, the blast doors seal him out, separating them completely. Gui is left all alone in the smoky ruins, staring at the cold, unmoving wall of the shelter. He turns around with tears in his eyes but a look of pure, unyielding resolve, because right there, looming over the entire landscape, is the S-Class Dragon Eva. It glares down at him, its mouth and horns glowing with overwhelming power. But Gui just stands his ground, declaring that if this is the strongest, then he is ready to fight. After 15 years of being treated like nothing, he has finally found his purpose, and he grips his mop handle like a legendary spear, vowing he will not lose to this monster. He screams that even without powers, he is not about to lose his pride, and the dragon immediately proves him wrong by snapping him up like a twig. As he is being crushed, our boy just bitterly thinks about the irony of dying a hero, finding some grim satisfaction that this is a decent way for a nobody to go out. Meanwhile, Hyoga is in denial, realizing his whole speech about actions was just a front, because in a flashback we see Gui's true desire was always to have an alpha ability. His only wish was to be strong enough to defend his mother from everyone who looked down on her. But floating in the abyss of death, he knows that dream is officially over. With his last thoughts, the kid apologizes to his mom for failing her. When suddenly a mysterious system window pops up in the void, talk about weird timing. It announces that the activation condition for an alpha ability has been met, death. Red data streams pour into him as his new power activates, Apex Predator Black Hole, which manifests as a massive, ominous sphere of pure gravitational nope. This system then declares it is beginning target consumption, which sounds fun for exactly one person. Back in the real world, the dragon looks absolutely baffled as its stomach starts to rumble. Its entire body begins to crack and implode, getting eaten from the inside out. That black hole is now tearing its way out, with the consumption rate already at 20%. This S-Class monster screams as it is violently dragged into the void, hitting 40% consumption. This creature keeps getting pulled apart piece by piece, its form dissolving as the rate climbs to 65%. And by 90%, the dragon is almost completely gone, leaving behind a glowing orb of pure power. This system announces consumption is 100% complete, and now it is time for the reconstruction phase. All that is left of the S-Class monster is this single glowing orb of concentrated power, which immediately starts to crack like a cosmic egg that is about to hatch, and then just erupts in a massive pillar of pure white energy, blasting straight up into the sky as the orb completely shatters apart. Out of the explosion, a reborn Gui emerges, now covered in glowing blue markings. He lands on the remnants of the orb, looking around completely dazed and confused. Our boy is just trying to process the fact that he was in fact eaten by a dragon, but his most pressing thought is that he is starving. A man's gotta have his priorities. A new system window pops up, confirming he has absorbed the dragon's power and can now use it. Gui, however, is still just laser-focused on his rumbling stomach, completely ignoring the god-tier upgrade. He just soaks in the energy, probably wondering where the nearest celestial vending machine is. This massive sphere he is standing on starts to crumble and fall apart beneath him, sending him tumbling to the ground, totally drained but with a new black hole on his hand. This thing is literally a swirling vortex of cosmic energy just sitting in his palm, very casual. That giant orb then starts rolling towards him, drawn in by his new gravitational pull, and all the surrounding debris gets sucked into the vortex he is creating, when a voice suddenly echoes in his mind, demanding he give it back. Gui is totally confused by the voice in his head, which is now screaming for its body back, because the dragon's consciousness is still here and it is absolutely furious about being evicted. Gui is still reeling from the power-up, realizing he is now connected to the strongest species. When the dragon's consciousness appears, absolutely screaming for its body back, then our boy jolts awake with a massive scream, very much not in a dragon's stomach, finding himself sitting up in a sterile, empty hospital room all alone. He's just trying to process being alive since he vividly remembers being eaten, when he notices a strange, swirling black orb in the palm of his hand. And his brilliant first guess is that it is just a bruise, a solid diagnosis. Suddenly, a beam of light shoots out from the bruise with a flash, and a tiny chibi version of the dragon pops out, still yelling about its stolen body. Gui just holds the little creature, completely confused as it calls him an insolent fool. This mini monster tries to puff out its chest, boasting about its magnificent horns and fangs, then proudly declares itself the king of all aliens and the strongest species, all 5 inches of it. Our boy just flashes back to the actual city-destroying kaiju and is not buying this squeak toys act. This little guy absolutely loses it, pointing to its horn patterns as undeniable proof of its identity. To finally convince him, it offers to reveal its super-secret, very important true name, striking a dramatic pose like it is about to change the world, only to completely forget what its name is, a classic case of post-death amnesia. Fed up with all the theatrics, Gui just straight up punches the tiny ghost. He starts shaking the little thing, calling out its pathetic act and demanding it stop messing with him. Then he gets dead serious, reminding it of all the students it killed and vowing to make it atone. This little dragon screams that Gui already ate it and should remember to avenge it. Logic is not its strong suit. It then claims Gui's body is literally made from its own, which is all the proof it needs. This new info plus the glowing horn on his head leaves our boy completely speechless. This dragon recaps how it got eaten from the inside, adding that Gui now smells just like it. Now it is stuck in this pitiful chibi form and can speak the language of inferior humans. It keeps insisting its original body was the strongest, while Gui just holds the squeaky toy, trying to process. Suddenly he panics, hearing someone approach and yelling for them to hide. And just like that, the door to his hospital room slides open with a flash of light. Standing in the doorway is none other than Hyoga, looking serious and ready for answers. But her serious face melts into pure relief and she is just so happy he is finally awake. He recognizes her from school as she introduces herself, all while hiding the dragon behind his back. Gui gets super casual, telling her to call him Gui, which completely throws the S-ranker off. Her friendly vibe vanishes as she flashes back to him, ignoring her orders and sacrificing himself. She calls him out for disobeying her, but he just calmly says he did what he could do. In response, the entire room's temperature plummets as ice crystals fill the air. And Gui is shivering, realizing this is not just a friendly chat anymore. Hyoga floats up, surrounded by a chilling aura, and demands he tell her the truth. She wants to know how he survived and why the S-Class Eva vanished a week ago. Our boy is just stunned to learn he has been out for a whole week, still shivering from her power. She confirms he was unconscious for 7 days, then holds out a remote to show him the news. He is watching the news, which reports the S-Class Eva just vanished without a trace. All cameras were wiped, leaving zero evidence except for a single eyewitness account. And that witness claims a lone boy was at the scene when the monster disappeared. Of course, the details are a complete mystery, leaving everyone guessing what happened. Back in the hospital room, Gui starts connecting the dots, and has the brilliant epiphany that the mysterious boy might just be him. Hyoga confirms it, immediately demanding to know exactly what went down that day. She explains that as an S-ranker, it is her job to hunt down this world-ending threat, and depending on his answer, her duty might involve dealing with him too. Our boy, sweating bullets, just claims he has amnesia, a classic foolproof strategy. He tries to keep his story straight, but the dragon is screaming in his head, telling him he is a fool if he spills the beans about what really happened. He plays it off as a sudden headache, which Hyoga seems to buy for now. This little guy warns him that admitting you ate a god-tier monster will get you executed. Gui considers this, realizing the squeak toy might actually have a point, and quietly agrees that maybe, just maybe, telling the truth is a terrible idea. But then he clenches his fist, having a sudden change of heart, because our boy's heroic conscience just cannot handle telling a lie, even to save his own skin. He shoves the proof in her face, declaring his alpha ability let him devour the S-Class Eva. Hyoga is just left completely speechless, trying to process this insane confession. Hyoga just stares blankly, asking what he is trying to do since there is literally nothing there. And Gui starts panicking, realizing she cannot see the dragon or the black mark on his hand. Her patience runs out as ice flares in her hand, and she demands a real answer this time, when suddenly a massive winged shadow blots out the sun right outside their window. This little squeak toy looks up, completely unfazed, like it was expecting company. But Hyoga keeps pressing, saying humanity's survival is at stake and he cannot run away. Meanwhile, the tiny dragon is screaming in his ear to get out of there immediately, promising to explain later, which is terrible timing as a massive alien dragon smashes right through the hospital wall. Both of them are thrown to the floor, completely stunned by the sudden kaiju home invasion. And wasting no time, Hyoga immediately starts gathering energy for a counterattack, creating a massive absolute ice wall that erupts to block the monster's path, leaving them encased in her defensive ice dome, staring up at the new threat. This new monster is confirmed to be another extraterrestrial and it is staring them down. Hyoga is freaking out, wondering why it is here, while Gui just yells at her to run. When the squeak toy helpfully explains this thing is way above S-rank and it came for him specifically, it then boasts that most Evas on Earth are just chumps it already defeated before coming here. And apparently this new predator sensed the original dragon was weakened and came to finish the job. It then screams that the monster is here to eat its body, which by proxy is now Gui's body. This massive creature looms over them, preparing to shatter their only defense. And it slams into the barrier, cracking the absolute ice wall that is supposed to stop S-rank attacks. With a single headbutt, the new kaiju completely shatters Hyoga's absolute ice defense. Gui immediately shoves Hyoga, yelling that the monster is here for him and she needs to run. She is just frozen in shock, completely floored by the kid's sudden self-sacrifice play. But refusing to back down, Hyoga powers up, declaring it is her mission as an S-ranker to fight. A storm of 1,000 ice pillars erupts from the ground, shooting straight for the dragon. And her attack hits dead-on, turning the monster into a giant, screaming pincushion of ice. She looks pretty pleased with herself, boasting she can handle threats of this level anytime. Unfortunately for her, the monster is completely unfazed as the ice just melts right off it. That smug look vanishes instantly as she realizes her ice pillars just melted away. In response, the monster starts charging a massive energy beam right in its mouth. Panicking, Hyoga shoves Gui behind her, trying to shield him from the incoming blast. But the squeaky toy on his shoulder, ever the survivalist, tells Gui this is their chance to escape. Its brilliant plan is to use the S-ranker as bait and make a run for it, solid teamwork. Our boy, however, has other plans, charging forward and landing a punch on the monster's leg. Seeing this, Hyoga screams for him to get back, reminding him he is powerless against it. But our boy just flashes this determined smirk, completely ignoring her warning. He declares he is just doing what he can, and if the monster wants him, it has got to fight. This plan works, and now the massive creature is laser-focused on him on the hospital rooftop. After his big heroic speech, our boy immediately panics, realizing he has no actual plan, classic Gooey. His genius escape plan involves jumping to a tree to lead the city-sized monster away from people. This squeak toy is having a full-blown meltdown, screaming that it is his asterisk body Gooey is about to wreck. Gooey just yells back that there is no other choice, earning a "you damn idiot" from his tiny companion. With a surge of power, his foot cracks the rooftop as he prepares to launch, and our boy goes flying off the building like a superhero who skipped orientation day. He is completely stunned by the sudden flight, just screaming into the wind in total shock, soaring high above the city with a newfound and very temporary sense of grace. For a glorious moment, he is just amazed at how incredible it feels to be airborne, until the very important question of how do I get down finally hits him. Gravity immediately answers that for him, sending them into a terrifying nosedive. When the tiny dragon, now the adult in the room, tells him to calm down and focus on landing, his hand glows with that same strange energy as he braces for a very messy impact, and he slams into the ground with a massive shockwave of light, leaving him in a perfect superhero landing pose inside a brand new crater. After a moment, he just winces, expecting a world of pain from that fall. But then his eyes snap open, realizing he does not feel a single thing. He is just standing there, completely baffled as to why he is totally unharmed. And the little guy smugly explains it was all thanks to its borrowed power. Right on cue, a massive energy beam obliterates the spot they were just standing on, as the predator dragon descends, forcing them to find a less populated battlefield. This monster looms over them with a terrifying roar, and Gooey is right back to panicking. This squeak toy offers a totally reasonable deal, just let it possess him to fight the monster. It lays out the stakes, warning that the predator will wipe out the entire city for breakfast. So the choice is simple, either everyone dies or Gooey gives up his body to the tiny demon. And with a terrifyingly wide grin, the little guy pressures him to make a decision like right now. Our boy is just frozen, trying to process this high-pressure, demonic timeshare proposal. He grabs the tiny dragon, demanding to know what "hand over my body" even means, while his companion just repeats that it was originally its body anyway, so finders keepers. It even reminds him that his superhero jump was a free trial of its power, a trial that saved his life. As the predator roars impatiently, the squeak toy screams at him to hurry up or die, then points out that letting the other monster get the body means everyone dies anyway, so pick your poison. But Gooey flat out refuses, yelling he remembers the chaos it caused at his school and will not trust it. Right on cue, another massive energy beam forces him to dive for cover, narrowly avoiding vaporization. This predator seems to know these flames will not kill him, since it is aware this is the original dragon's body. Suddenly, a woman's scream cuts through the chaos, and he spots a civilian nearby. It is a girl in a wheelchair who did not evacuate, now directly in the monster's path. Getting totally distracted by the new damsel in distress, Gooey realizes he is in deep trouble. He immediately starts taunting the kaiju, yelling for the damn bird seal to focus on him instead. His tiny companion is absolutely livid, screaming at him to stop the heroics and just hand over the body. Gooey clenches his fist, realizing if his body really is the strongest, then maybe he has a shot, and with a look of pure determination, he winds up for a punch, ready to go another round. He throws a desperate punch right into the monster's leg, hoping for a miracle, and his attack connects with all the force of a wet noodle. The monster does not even flinch. Our boy is left completely baffled, wondering why his epic punch did absolutely nothing at all. His tiny companion reminds him that without its permission, he is just a regular dude with delusions of grandeur. Meanwhile, the predator starts charging a city-leveling energy blast, which is generally a bad sign. This squeak toy gives him one last offer: hand over the body or become a fine red mist. It promises to handle everything if he just signs on the dotted line for demonic possession, while also screaming that the hospital and everyone in it are about to be vaporized, so hurry up. Gooey's response is to just grab the little guy and squish its face, a solid negotiation tactic. He yells that this whole mess is its fault anyway for attracting the kaiju in the first place, then hits it with a counteroffer. He is not giving up his body, he is just borrowing the power. Right as the monster fires its beam, the little guy screams that this idiot is getting them both killed. Gooey just grins, basically saying if it does not help, they are all going to die together. His master plan is to die taking the strongest species with him, a plan his companion calls being killed by an idiot. This finally breaks the tiny dragon, who screams for his hand and agrees to a one-time power-up. It promises to lend him just a little bit of power, probably crossing its tiny fingers behind its back, and a swirling vortex of pure cosmic energy forms in his palm, looking way cooler than he deserves. A blue aura erupts around him as he feels the power surge, finally feeling like he can actually fight. He decides to aim the attack upwards to protect the civilians, a noble thought for a guy about to fire a god-tier weapon, and a system window helpfully informs him he is releasing a grand total of 0.0001% of its power. Talk about a trial version. Gooey unleashes a torrent of blue energy straight from his fist, aiming to intercept the attack. and his tiny beam goes head-to-head with the City Destroyer blast in a classic anime showdown. Both attacks collide in a blinding flash, a massive explosion of pure cosmic power. For a second, it looks like the Predator's beam is completely overwhelming his. This alien monster seems pretty confident it is about to win this little light show. While Gooey starts panicking, they are being pushed back, but the squeak toy tells him to have some faith. Suddenly, his blue energy surges forward, completely engulfing the monster's attack. This predator dragon gets a face full of strongest species energy, which definitely was not on its menu. A massive pillar of light erupts, vaporizing the monster from the inside out, and the beam shoots straight into the sky, taking every last trace of the alien kaiju with it. Down below, the girl in the wheelchair just smiles, completely safe now thanks to our boy's borrowed power, as what is left of the monster comes crashing down from the heavens like a ton of scaly bricks. Right on cue, a system message pops up announcing his free trial of godhood has officially expired. Gooey is just marveling at his hand, completely blown away that he one-shotted a kaiju. But that high wears off instantly as he feels the power drain away, leaving him sweating bullets. He then just collapses, the backlash from that one attack hitting him all at once. Just then, a familiar-looking combat boot steps onto the scene, signaling backup has finally arrived. It is Hyoga running in to find Gooey passed out next to a giant, very dead monster. She rushes over to the scene, probably trying to process what the hell just happened here, and staring at the massive corpse, she is left completely speechless, questioning everything she knows about power levels. Hyoga's mind is racing, trying to figure out how this kid with no powers just did all of that. Gooey wakes up not in a hospital bed, but in some ridiculously huge, sterile-looking hall. And his first thought is not where am I, but man, something smells amazing in here. A silver-haired man in a sharp military uniform offers him tea, welcoming him by name, which is a suspiciously civilized greeting after waking up in a secret government bunker. Our boy is understandably confused, asking who this guy is and what this whole setup is about. This man explains they brought him in for care after he single-handedly took down the kaiju, revealing they are in Hachai School's super-secret underground facility, a bunker for VIPs. He introduces himself as Nishiki Ryujin, an S-ranker, commander, and the school's principal. Gooey is completely floored, recognizing the name of this absolute legend immediately, because this is the guy who defeated the strongest species 8 years ago, the country's top soldier. Nishiki then drops the bomb that he is also Gooey's boss, reminding the janitor to show some respect. Even the tiny dragon is freaking out, realizing this guy is way out of their league and it is time to shut up. Still processing, Gooey just wants to know why he is in a training facility instead of, a hospital. When he spots a familiar face at the table, it is Orin, looking as thrilled as ever to see him. His face just lights up with a huge, goofy grin, totally relieved that she is okay. And she just looks away, trying to play it cool while saying she is glad he is safe too. Then he notices someone else, the girl in the wheelchair he saved from the bird seal monster, who introduces herself as Unagi Senri and a ranker and thanks him for the heroic save. Gooey connects the dots, realizing from her uniform that she must be a Hatch School student too. Gooey looks around the table, realizing he is sitting with 3 top rankers and feeling just a little out of his league. Nishiki then gets down to business, offering everyone some snacks he proudly baked himself. And they are adorable little animal-shaped cookies, which absolutely does not fit his terrifying commander vibe. Our boy immediately starts stuffing his face, totally distracted by the free food as Nishiki begins the debrief. This principal casually asks if he ate the strongest species and can now use its power, causing a massive spit take. With his little blue horn popping out, Gooey demands to know how he could possibly have that information. Orin's eyes go wide, the gears in her head finally clicking into place about Gooey's secret. But Nishiki just sips his tea, calmly revealing they have been monitoring him the entire time, which is not creepy at all. Gooey's expression hardens, the reality of being under constant surveillance finally sinking in. This commander then explains that element is a mysterious substance the alien Evas brought from space, serving as both the monster's power source and the origin of all human alpha abilities. He reveals Yunaga's rare power lets her not only see but also manipulate this energy, which is why she was assigned to watch him. So that whole coincidental meeting at the hospital was actually a setup to test him all along. Nishiki's tone gets dead serious as he brings the conversation back to the strongest species, recalling the original one that appeared in Tokyo 8 years ago and caused unprecedented destruction. This thing is considered a threat on par with a nuclear warhead, and the kaiju Gooey fought was mistaken for it. Suddenly, the friendly tea party vibe completely shatters as Nishiki appears behind Gooey with a sword to his throat. He declares that if there is even the slightest risk, it is his duty as the country's strongest S-ranker to eliminate it. Our boy is completely frozen in terror, trying to process how the commander just teleported behind him. And his empty chair across the table is a chilling reminder of just how impossibly fast this guy is. Nishiki's face contorts with rage, vowing to personally annihilate the strongest species for what it did to his students. And Gooey is just sweating buckets, feeling the cold steel of that promise pressed right against his neck. But just as things get dicey, someone screams for the principal to stop. It is Orin jumping in to argue that if more nuke-level monsters show up, they will need a weapon just as strong. She passionately makes the case that instead of a threat, Gooey could be humanity's greatest hope. Gooey just looks on, completely stunned that she is putting her neck on the line for him. Nishiki finally relents, pulling the sword back and admitting Hyoga had a similar idea. In a flashback, he lays out the strategy, fight fire with fire, but giving a kid the nuclear codes is a hard pass. So he officially assigned Unagi to observe Gui, ordering her to assess him very, very carefully. And she just gives a cheerful okay, accepting her top-secret spy mission with a smile. Back in the present, Unagi gives Gui a little wink, completely unbothered by this whole life-or-death situation. She then suddenly grabs his hand, getting way too close for comfort. Gui flinches back, demanding to know what she is doing as she holds his wrist. With a creepy smile, she reveals the tiny dragon in his palm, noting his own power level is basically zero. This little guy is absolutely panicking inside an energy bubble, thinking this woman is a total creep. Unagi just stretches, casually saying she will need to observe him more seriously to understand him. Her smile turns intense, her eyes glowing as she prepares to use her power on him. In a close-up of her eye, we see Gui's reflection as she declares that humans are the universe. Her gaze becomes cosmic as she wonders what kind of universe she's about to find inside our boy. And she gets right in his face, hand on his cheek, asking what secrets he is hiding, talk about personal space invasion. Unagi activates her celestial observation, basically hacking into Gui's soul to see what is up. And she dives headfirst into his inner world, a cosmic blue void having the time of her life. Floating through the energy, she is totally geeking out that this is what is inside our boy. His inner space is a whole galaxy, where the stars represent the elements inside his body. Her observation confirms he does have elements, just a pathetically small amount compared to others. But then she notices all those tiny stars are moving, getting pulled toward a dark void in the distance. A close-up reveals a swirling black hole at the center of his being, which is definitely not normal. Her face drops as she realizes everything is getting sucked into it, a truly terrible discovery. This void just keeps growing, a terrifying vortex of pure nothingness pulling everything in. It finally hits her that Gui's secret alpha ability is not just weak, it is a literal black hole. And now she's getting pulled into her little psychic joyride, turning into a horror movie. She tries to fight the pull but is completely powerless against its insane gravity. This energy around her twists into a violent vortex, dragging her straight into the abyss. After a terrifying tumble, she gets spat out on the other side into total darkness. Completely disoriented, she's just trying to figure out if she actually escaped or not. Suddenly, something zips past her at impossible speed in the pitch-black void. She realizes that was just the asterisk gravity asterisk. If she were fully absorbed, she'd be completely erased. This power is way beyond human limits, and now she is determined to uncover its true nature. So with zero self-preservation, she decides to dive even deeper into the danger zone. At the center, she finds the tiny dragon trapped inside a black sphere, the true core of this cosmic mess. Inside his soul, she finds a massive, terrifying dragon and immediately connects it to the strongest species. This thing lunges forward, a pure nightmare of teeth and glowing blue energy. It barrels straight toward her psychic projection, making her look like a tiny little snack. And the dragon's jaws open wide, ready to swallow her whole and end her little spy mission permanently. Her vision cuts out just in time, yanking her back to reality with a system message canceling the observation. Unagi is absolutely losing it, screaming and grabbing her head, just thankful to be alive after that trip. Orin rushes over, trying to calm her down after that blood-curdling scream echoed through the room. While Gui is just sitting there holding his squeak toy, asking if the test is over, zero situational awareness. Nishiki calmly offers her some water because a near-death psychic experience is just another Tuesday in this bunker. She chugs the drink like her life depends on it, still shaking from the mental beatdown. With wide, terrified eyes, she finally lowers the cup, the horror of what she saw still fresh. This principal, ever the professional, immediately asks for the results of her little soul dive. Unagi drops the bombshell. Gui's alpha ability is a literal black hole inside his body, which explains his zero-element status. He has been absorbing his own power, confirming he really did eat that monster. She then reveals she was sucked in and found the strongest species imprisoned at the core. Nishiki's expression darkens as he demands to know the state of the creature inside this kid. Still trembling, Unagi confesses that even trapped, the monster was hostile and attacked her on sight. In a flash of steel, Nishiki draws his sword, clearly not a fan of that particular update. And he has got the blade right back at Gui's throat because apparently that is his only solution to problems. Everyone freaks out as the principal threatens to execute our boy for the second time in 10 minutes. Unaga's report confirms Nishiki's worst fear. The monster inside Gui is still very much hostile. This commander declares that if there is any chance it could break free, he has to neutralize the threat now. Panicking, the tiny dragon offers Gui its power so they can team up and take this guy down. Unagi immediately translates this, pointing out that the creature's soul is already trying to tempt him. Turns out when Gui absorbed the monster, its body was sealed in the black hole while the soul stayed out with him. And she warns that if our boy accepts that power, the danger will escalate beyond anyone's control. With a face of pure rage, Nishiki decides a nuclear warhead with a tempting soul is a risk he will not take. But Gui grabs the blade with his bare hand, insisting he has lived his whole life without any powers. He swears he will not be tempted, trying desperately to prove he is stronger than the monster inside. This commander just asks what could possibly guarantee that, his patience completely gone, before screaming nothing, and running our boy straight through with his sword. Gui lets out an agonized scream because getting impaled tends to ruin your afternoon. Enraged, the tiny dragon roars about its body being attacked and unleashes a torrent of energy. A massive pillar of blue light explodes from Gui's chest, engulfing him completely. Unagi is horrified, realizing S+ rank elements are pouring out of his body. Nishiki just watches the chaos unfold, grimly deciding it is time to eliminate the target for real. Our boy's eyes are glowing an eerie blue, looking like he has completely lost control. His body hangs limp in the air, suspended by the raw power erupting from the wound. Looking at the absolute disaster he just created, the principal accepts that it has come to this. He officially designates Gui as the strongest species and prepares to end him for good. Unagi screams that the monster's power is skyrocketing, warning it is about to be fully unleashed. But Nishiki just calmly readies his sword, promising he will handle this little kaiju jailbreak. He then unleashes a massive slash, carving a trench straight through the bunker floor. Leaping into the air as he vows to cut our boy down before the monster can fully emerge. His face is pure grim determination as he brings the blade down with everything he has got, and the entire room is just consumed by a blinding flash of pure destructive energy. Unagi and Orin are just floored by the principal's power, knowing Gui is about to be vaporized, while Nishiki himself looks on, cold and resolved, confident he just ended the threat for good. But as the blinding light from his attack finally starts to fade, our boy is just floating there, completely unfazed, guessed that killshot was not quite a killshot. This energy erupting from him now takes the spectral form of a massive dragon towering over everyone, and even Nishiki is sweating, admitting the power is so overwhelming he can see it without any special senses. So he decides to try again, this time with feeling, because if at first you do not succeed, stab harder. He unleashes a massive, concentrated slash meant to cleave everything in its path, this time launching a whole barrage, determined to overwhelm the monster with pure force. His blade glows with raw power as he channels everything he has into one final strike, but the glowing sword stops dead just inches from Gui's chest, blocked by an energy shield. Nishiki's face just screams, well, that is not supposed to happen, as his best shot gets completely stonewalled. And Unagi is horrified that Gui is totally unscathed, realizing she has to get in there and help. Meanwhile, Gui's inner consciousness is just giving a tearful thumbs up like I am helping, from inside the kaiju hurricane. But Unagi is not just standing by, she is bracing herself to jump into the fray. Meanwhile, Gui's hand is glowing as he channels the monster's power into a sphere. And at its core is the tiny dragon, looking way too pleased with this hostile takeover. This little guy is already trash-talking, wondering if Nishiki is really the best humanity has to offer. Nishiki's face is pure challenge accepted, not even slightly intimidated by the squeak toy. He just calmly accepts the challenge, ready to put this possessed kid in his place. With Gui floating like a supervillain, the principal sizes up his opponent from the ground floor. Announcing he is done playing around, Nishiki raises his sword to unleash his full power. His blade starts gathering an insane amount of energy, swirling with pure white light, unleashing a massive spectral dragon made of pure force right at our boy. This attack morphs into a giant vortex of destruction, aiming to completely shred him. This tiny dragon just smirks, finding this whole fight for your life thing very entertaining. Unagi realizes he is gathering the very elements of the space into his sword. This is looking really bad. Down below, the two colossal powers are on a collision course, ready to tear the bunker apart. Orin desperately screams for Gui to wake up, reminding him of his promise not to be tempted. But our boy is completely checked out, still a puppet for the blue energy kaiju. In response, a massive serpent of blue energy erupts from him to meet the principal's attack head-on, and the monster's soul is just loving this, taunting Nishiki as it lunges forward for a fight. Nishiki is actually struggling, gritting his teeth as he tries to hold back the monster's raw power. These two attacks finally collide, splitting the room with a blinding flash of pure destructive force. Unagi shoves Orin's wheelchair out of the blast radius just as the shockwave tears through the room, and Nishiki's sword gets knocked clean out of his hand, sent spinning into the darkness. Even disarmed, the principal stands his ground with a knife against the colossal energy dragon. But he is clearly struggling, his face a perfect mix of shock and I may have miscalculated. This monster's energy form just roars, completely overwhelming Nishiki's attack with pure force. With a casual see ya, the dragon's soul decides the fight was fun and starts to fade away. Unagi and Orin are screaming for the principal, absolutely convinced he just got vaporized. As the dust and raw power finally settle, the entire training room is a total wreck. But Nishiki is still standing, looking more annoyed than injured by the whole kaiju smackdown. This blue energy recedes into a single column, and a new voice asks why it is suddenly so dark. All that insane power is flowing back into Gui, who is now standing on his own 2 feet. His eyes are shadowed, but it is clear our boy is finally back in the driver's seat. Nishiki just watches intently, trying to figure out who exactly is in control of the body now. And he straight up asks if he is talking to the monster or to Gui himself. With a confident smirk, Gui says he told them he would not be tempted by the monster's power. Turns out, getting stabbed and knocked out was the key. It gave him the time to regain control of his body. This principal seems to be processing this, maybe even a little impressed the kid actually pulled it off. Then Gui just summons an energy wolf and smacks himself in the head with it, his own unique form of discipline. He grabs the tiny dragon, scolding it for going on another rampage and threatening to eat it for real this time. Holding the terrified squeak toy to his face, he asks if it needs another lesson, an absolute power move. Unagi is just staring at his eyes, which have become terrifying, soulless black pits. This poor little dragon is getting squeezed so hard it is having flashbacks to being devoured. Talk about trauma. It is remembering its original, massive body getting completely torn apart by Gui's black hole power. This tiny terror immediately starts begging for its life, promising to be good if Gui just stops. And just like that, the strongest species curls into a sad little ball in his hand, totally defeated. Gui admits he has no clue how to use his black hole ability, just relieve the monster back down on its own. Orin then points out his star element is now officially 0, making him a complete unranked nobody. Nishiki, on the other hand, is just grinning like he won the lottery or a very dangerous bet. This quickly escalates into a full-blown villain laugh because apparently this was all just great entertainment. He recaps how Gui went from unconscious to unleashing a kaiju, then sealed it without any casualties. With a grand gesture, Nishiki declares that Gui has passed the test and is now enrolled in Hachai School. Our boy is completely lost, and Nishiki explains that the whole near-death experience was just the entrance exam. This principle explains that humanity needs a weapon on par with the strongest species for future invasions. But that kind of power needs to be controlled, which is why they tested if he could dominate the monster. Gui is just over it, muttering about how he is being tested left and right these days. He is still trying to wrap his head around a powerless kid like him getting into an elite school, so he asks the principal if he is planning to test him again, wondering if he is still not satisfied. But then he clenches his fist, his resolve hardening as he simply says no. He declares he will do whatever he can, deciding to enroll and fight to protect everyone. He vows that with or without powers, he will do whatever it takes to support those on the front lines. Nishiki is all smiles, officially welcoming Gui to the school now that the whole trying to kill him thing is over. He then offers to heal the stab wound he just gave him, apologizing like it was a minor inconvenience. But as he gets a closer look at the wound, his expression shifts to one of surprise. Turns out the gash is already closing up on its own, no healing powers needed apparently. Nishiki just chalks it up to the monster's flesh, admitting the kid's body is a serious hazard. With that settled, he introduces Gui to a new girl, Hyoga, who is apparently the top student. She looks a little overwhelmed by the whole situation but promises to do her best to look after him. Ori, now called Senri, gets her new assignment to change classes and keep an eye on Gui. This girl is absolutely losing her mind with excitement, totally fired up to observe Mr. Strongest Species. Even the tiny dragon is sweating, thinking this new girl is seriously terrifying. Nishiki just watches the chaos unfold, smugly noting that things are about to get interesting. Then in a complete non sequitur, the principal pulls a thermos from his pouch. He casually offers Hyoga some tea, who politely declines since she brought her own bottle, so he just helps himself to a cup, taking a sip while Hyoga just stares, completely baffled. Mid-sip, he gives Hyoga a casual but deadly order. If Gui loses control, she has to kill him. Her face is pure shock because kill your new classmate was not in the student handbook. Nishiki explains he is usually busy with S-rank threats, so she is the designated babysitter/executioner. She is clearly not confident, remembering how her ice wall got shattered by that same power. This principal just casually sips his tea, reminding her that yeah, the monster did break her wall. But he insists her Ice Star Europa ability should be enough to take Gui down before a full-on kaiju situation. Nishiki keeps sipping his tea, casually pointing out she could have stopped Gui if she'd actually tried. Hyoga is clearly not on board with the murder your classmate part of the job description. Looking down on her, he pulls the S-ranker card, saying refusal is not an option for the country's protectors. Her gaze drifts to Gui, who is just happily chatting with Orin, looking like anything but a threat. And yeah, he looks like a total sweetheart, holding the tiny dragon and smiling despite his massive chest wound. A flashback hits her of Gui carrying her to safety, the very person she is now ordered to kill. Her face darkens as she clenches her fist, finally accepting the grim reality of her new duty. Standing resolute, she vows to eliminate Gui herself if he ever goes berserk and threatens anyone. She calls it both her S-ranker duty and her way of repaying him for saving her life. What a thank you note. This principal gives a satisfied smile, pleased that his top student is now on board with the plan. With her resolve set, Hyoga calls out to Gui, who turns to face them, oblivious to the new arrangement. Nishiki then flexes some golden energy in his hand, asking Gui if he can feel its power. Our boy just looks confused, admitting he feels absolutely nothing, guess that 0-star element is for real. So Nishiki gathers everyone, announcing a new mission for the group before Gui officially starts school. This mission is simple: teach the kid who can seal kaiju the absolute basics of how powers even work. He frames this tutoring session as a mission crucial to humanity's survival. No pressure, kids. This next day arrives and Gui is on his way to his first official lesson. He arrives at the special training ground, looking around with the little dragon in his arms. He is at the spot Orin told him to go, but it is clearly not what he was expecting, because the super-secret humanity-saving training ground is a hot springs resort. Gui arrives at the supposed special training ground, which looks suspiciously like a fancy spa. Convinced he is in the wrong spot, he starts rummaging through his bag for a map or something. Just then, someone in traditional sandals walks up, apologizing for making him wait. Our boy looks up, completely caught off guard by who he sees. It is Hyoga and Orin, fresh from a bath and welcoming him to the training facility. He is justifiably confused, asking what happened to the training since they are clearly on vacation mode. Hyoga puffs out her cheeks, insisting this is the training, which Gui finds hard to believe since she is literally steaming. This whole situation is clearly not computing for him at all. Changing the subject, he asks Orin if her leg is okay after the whole bunker incident. She just beams, explaining the principal's healing powers fixed her fracture in a flash. Inspired by this, Gui gets all fired up, determined to master his own mysterious powers too. Orin immediately seizes the opportunity, grabbing his hand to investigate his ability right then and there. Her investigation starts with getting way too close to the tiny dragon, who is not a fan of the perverted eye-patch woman. This little guy panics and dives straight into the black hole in Gui's palm to escape her. But Orin is undeterred, admitting she is way more interested in the hole anyway. She gets uncomfortably close, telling a flustered Gui not to move while she examines him. Her examination involves immediately poking her finger right into his personal pocket dimension. And yeah, she is having way too much fun with this whole thing. As her finger sinks in, Gui yelps that it is ticklish, which is probably the most wholesome reaction to this. She then proudly announces she got 2 fingers in and invites Hyoga to try, while Gui begs her to stop treating him like a science experiment. Hyoga is now getting super curious about the hole, while Gui has a total meltdown over being treated like a science project. Inside the pocket dimension, Orin's finger finds the tiny dragon, who immediately tries to bite her. This little guy pops out to yell at them for invading his home, which is literally Gui's palm. Unfazed, Orin just licks her fingers, smugly announcing that this little test confirms her hypothesis. She asks if he felt anything during her examination, and he just says it was ticklish, the most wholesome response ever. Her expression immediately darkens, revealing that his lack of sensation means he cannot use his alpha ability. Gui is completely floored by this, while the tiny dragon finds his powerlessness absolutely hilarious. She explains she was releasing star elements into the hole, and his inability to feel them is a huge problem. Our boy is completely lost, asking for a crash course on what star elements even are. Hyoga steps in, explaining that star elements are basically the fuel required to use any special powers. Apparently, this cosmic energy hitched a ride to Earth with the alien invaders years ago. Now that energy is just everywhere, infused into the very environment they live in. It is not just in the air and ground, living creatures are also packed with this stuff. She says humans absorb it naturally through breathing and eating, constantly radiating a small amount. But the big problem is that Gui cannot recognize this fuel, so he has an engine with no gas. He finally gets it, realizing he is in a serious bind and the dragon's smug little face is not helping. Then he just smiles, confident that with Orin and Hyoga here to train him, everything will be fine. Both girls give him a warm, encouraging look, totally ready to get him up to speed. So Orin leads the way to a steaming hot spring, announcing this is where his training officially begins. She hands a ladle to Hyoga, who looks ready to kick off this very unconventional training session. Hyoga scoops up some hot spring water, looking way too serious for spa day. With a flash, she charges the water with a massive amount of golden energy. Orin presents the glowing concoction, commenting on its potency while Gui just stares, totally lost. Their plan is simple: have him drink this supercharged water to kickstart his ability to sense star elements. She offers him the ladle with a suggestive tone that has Hyoga blushing and Gui backing away. Great start. Apparently, they just superdosed the naturally element-rich spring water to make it easier for him to detect. Our boy takes the ladle, all smiles and confidence, thinking this will be a piece of cake. Behind him, both girls are sporting the most devious, troll-like grins imaginable. This is not going to be a piece of cake. He says bottoms up and takes a sip, completely oblivious to the impending disaster. And immediately the ladle clatters to the ground as the effect hits him full force. Gui grabs his throat, screaming that it feels like it is on fire. From the side, Orin just smirks, casually mentioning she forgot a tiny detail, and that tiny detail is that concentrated star elements can be straight-up poisonous. Whoops. He is literally choking while yelling that this was probably the most important warning she could have given him. She just explains that this is standard Hatch school training to handle high-density energy. Through the pain, Gui realizes he has been totally sucker-punched by his own tutors. But even while choking, he forces a smile, determined to pass this insane test and prove his worth. Orin is absolutely loving his spirit, while Hyoga looks a little more conflicted about the whole poisoning your classmate thing. As he struggles, his body starts to glow, radiating the very energy he just drank. This light then erupts from him in a massive pillar, his training having a much more dramatic effect than anyone expected. Gui grits his teeth, fighting through the sheer agony of the supercharged energy drink. His entire body starts glowing, and he can literally feel the power coursing through his veins for the first time. With wide eyes, he finally starts to understand what is happening to him. He stares at his hand, finally connecting the dots. This must be what star elements feel like. Holding the tiny dragon, he is practically buzzing with excitement, now fully sensing the power. His tutors are all smiles, cheering that he is finally sensing star elements. Phase 1 of the poison training is a success. But just as quickly as the energy appeared, it seems to be vanishing into the sky. Our boy looks up, totally baffled by what is going on now. With his senses now unlocked, he is shocked to realize the entire area is just swimming in star elements. This energy is practically pouring out of the hot spring water. and it is even radiating from all the trees surrounding them. This whole place is a natural power spot, which is why the school uses it for special training. At that moment, the last of the energy he absorbed just vanishes completely. He is left totally confused, asking why the star element inside him just disappeared. Orin just gives him a look, preparing to drop another bombshell on the poor guy. Turns out, her special ability let her see all that energy getting sucked straight into a black hole inside him. Our boy's expression is pure shock as he tries to wrap his head around that. She smugly clarifies that his body is like a bucket with a giant hole, nothing stays in. This awful realization hits him. If he cannot store energy, he cannot use any alpha abilities. And so he is left standing there, processing the fact that his incredible power is also his biggest weakness. Just as Gui's despair sets in, Hyuga gets a sudden flash of inspiration. Her brilliant plan is for everyone to just hop in the hot spring since it is full of star element. Orin is immediately on board with this, hyping up the training while Gui looks totally lost. He tries to protest, reminding them he is supposed to be working, not on a spa day. They just walk off, dropping some sage wisdom that thinking for yourself is also training. What a cop-out. Our boy is left completely speechless, and even his tiny dragon is mocking him for getting ditched. So he ends up in the water anyway, wondering if this is all just an excuse for them to relax. Meanwhile, the little dragon is having the time of its life, chugging the energy-rich water straight from the source. It even has the nerve to gloat about how tough it must be for people with no talent. Then it just points and laughs, rubbing in the fact that Gui cannot use any powers at all. That little bit of trash talk earns it a swift smack. Gui bonks the little pest on the head, telling it to shut up while he is trying to be serious. He sinks back into his funk, staring at his hands and feeling completely useless. Surrounded by all this power, he cannot even absorb or manipulate a single drop of it. This little dragon just swims by, completely unbothered by his existential crisis. In a fit of frustration, he just splashes water all over his face, trying to snap out of it. But then a fire lights in his eyes, declaring his one redeeming quality is that he never gives up. Over in the women's bath, Hyuga and Orin are just chilling, completely unaware of his breakthrough. Hyuga lets out a sigh of relief, enjoying the peace and quiet of the hot spring. Orin then brings up the real problem. Even if he can sense energy, he is still screwed without any actual abilities. Hyuga explains that since abilities are tied to perception, Gui has to figure this out all by himself. Orin agrees, adding that her methods would just be noise to him, a very helpful vote of confidence. So they decide to just have faith and wait, which sounds a lot like an excuse to keep relaxing. Meanwhile, Gui's chug the spring water strategy has completely failed, much to his dragon's amusement. On top of that, he is getting dizzy, admitting he is not even good with hot water to begin with. He just stews in his own failure, feeling completely and utterly useless. But then he notices something strange. The star element in the water he is holding is decreasing. Our boy is completely shocked, watching the energy just vanish from his hands. It seems his apex predator black hole is just passively absorbing all the ambient energy around him. He is beyond frustrated, complaining that he has zero control over his own supposed alpha ability. Suddenly, a system message appears, stating he has exceeded the energy needed to seal the strongest species. What now? Gui stares in utter disbelief as a holographic window materializes right in front of his face. He immediately recognizes this as the same kind of system that appeared with the bird seal. This window offers him a new skill called Star Element Jet and prompts him with a simple yes or no. With literally nothing left to lose, he mumbles yes, accepting the mystery upgrade. This entire hot spring complex is immediately rocked by a massive, earth-shaking tremor. Over in their bath, Hyuga and Orin are completely startled by the sudden impact. A colossal pillar of golden light erupts into the sky, originating from the men's side. Realizing the chaos is coming from Gui, they scramble out of the water to investigate. They shout his name in a panic, rushing to see what kind of trouble he has gotten into this time. Hyuga rushes in, yelling to see if Gui is okay after that massive explosion of light. Our boy just looks back, flustered and apologizing for the sudden power-up commotion. He tries to explain that a random system window popped up and just gave him an alpha ability. Then he just laughs it off super awkwardly, the classic "I almost blew up the building, my bad" defense. Both girls are completely stunned, demanding to know how he suddenly unlocked a power out of nowhere. This next morning, we cut to a dorm building with someone ominously watching from a balcony. Inside, we see a door plaque for room 201 belonging to Akiraboshi, which is Gui's last name. A voice declares that today is the day it all begins, setting a seriously dramatic tone. And it is just Gui in his new school uniform, looking way too cheerful for all that foreshadowing. Someone calls out his name and he turns around, completely caught off guard. Of course, it is Orin and Hyuga, already waiting for him on his first day of school. Orin immediately starts teasing him about the hot spring incident, making him blush like crazy. Meanwhile, his little dragon companion is just cackling with pure, unadulterated malice. Orin gets down to business, asking if he can actually control that star element jet on command. A flashback shows him unleashing the beam, accidentally catching the tiny dragon in the blast. This little guy gets absolutely yeeted into the sky, screaming its tiny lungs out. And it is still salty about it, looking like it is about to throw hands. Gui sheepishly admits he cannot use the power at all, leaving Orin to call it a mystery. He explains the system only activated because of excess energy, which he now lacks. His theory is that his black hole power sucked the entire hot spring dry just for that one shot. Hyuga is in full chibi rage mode, complaining his stunt ruined their actual training plans. Our boy immediately starts bowing and apologizing while she admits she is only half joking. This kid is genuinely surprised Orin knows how to joke, which just offends her more. Getting serious, Orin points out the huge upside. He can finally sense energy and use an ability. With Hyuga by her side, she declares they will all get stronger together at Hachei School. Gui looks genuinely moved by their support, though his dragon is just preening on his shoulder. In a sudden formal turn, Gui bows deeply, saying he is looking forward to working with them. His sudden sincerity completely short-circuits Hyuga, leaving her totally flustered. Gui just wanted to be proper for once and thank them for the whole poisoning incident. A smile returns to her face as she approves, saying he is already acting like a proper student. But then he just waves them off, saying he has a quick errand to run before class. Hyuga immediately panics, shouting that he is going to be late on his very first day. He just bolts down the street, yelling back that he will totally make it in time, famous last words. Watching him sprint away, Orin just smirks, commenting on how that is so typically Gui. Turns out his errand is a visit to the 8th City Hospital. Inside, he is sitting at the bedside of a woman who appears to be unconscious. Gui apologizes to his mother for not visiting sooner, explaining that things have been crazy. She remains asleep, completely unaware of his presence or his words. Standing proudly, Gui shows off his new uniform, announcing he is officially a Hatch School student. He promises her he can even use an alpha ability now and will use it to help everyone. He turns to leave the room, his promise hanging in the quiet air. With a final smile, he tells his mom he will be back soon and to get well. And with that, he is out the door, ready to finally start his first day at Hachei School. But just as the door clicks shut, his mother's finger twitches, a tiny, almost imperceptible movement. This little dragon feels a weird flicker of energy but just dismisses it because what does it know? A moment later, Gui is hit with the sudden, horrifying realization that he is running late. He is now in a full-blown panic, sprinting and yelling about how the school moved buildings on him. Spotting the campus in the distance, he thinks he can just barely make it if he does not stop. In his mad dash, he slams face first into another student, a classic anime protagonist move. Our boy immediately starts bowing and apologizing for his spectacular lack of awareness. This guy he ran into, however, is a seriously intimidating dude with a bandage over his eye. This new guy immediately starts laying into him, calling him useless and mocking his uniform. Gui is completely baffled by the instant hostility, just trying to process the insult. But then the voice clicks and he recognizes the bandaged student. It is Hiwashi from the seal incident. Hiwashi is absolutely fuming, enraged that Gui would even dare to ask if he is okay. He grabs Gui by the collar, screaming at him not to mock him or show him any pity. Gui tries to explain he is actually grateful since fighting him helped unlock his powers. This mention of the strongest species makes Hiwashi freeze, clearly striking a nerve. A quick flashback shows Hiwashi and his crew getting utterly wrecked by that bird monster. That humiliating memory just reignites his anger and he clenches his fist, ready for round 2. Instead of a handshake, Gui's friendly gesture gets smacked away with some serious force. He tries to make peace, announcing he is a new transfer and wants to be allies, a truly terrible read of the room. Hiwashi slaps his hand aside, making it crystal clear that friendship is not on the menu today. Instead, he summons a giant fireball, ranting about how he is a laughingstock and Gui is useless. With pure rage in his one good eye, he promises to burn Gui and that fancy new uniform to a crisp. Our boy is just standing there, completely baffled by the sudden escalation from hello to incineration. But his confusion quickly turns to resolve as he realizes this psycho is dead serious about fighting. A crowd immediately gathers because nothing gets students more excited than a first-day beatdown. And look who it is, Hyuga trying to play the student council card to break things up. Too late for that as Hiwashi unleashes a massive wave of fire right down the street at Gui. Gui flinches back, completely caught off guard by the sheer scale of the attack. Hyuga sprints forward, absolutely losing her mind that he is in a fight before first period even starts. But then a hand clamps over her mouth, stopping her mid-shout. Of course it is Orin, holding her back with a grin that just screams, "Let us see where this goes." She tells Hyuga to chill out, whispering that this is way too interesting to interrupt. Orin seems totally unbothered, noting that a rank Hiwashi getting some combat experience is just fine. Her logic is that Gui has to prove his strength anyway, so why not with a public duel to the death? Hyuga, however, looks absolutely horrified, clearly not a fan of this sink or swim entrance exam. Meanwhile, a massive sphere of concentrated fire is rocketing straight for Gui's face. He just stares it down, about to take a full power rank attack head-on. Hiwashi unleashes a volley of fire, mocking Gui for being a powerless nobody who can only run. Our boy is desperately dodging the explosions, which are tearing up the street around him. He is in a total panic since his one-shot jet ability has gone completely silent while his dragon just cheers for violence. Desperate for any option, his little companion points right at the black hole on his palm. A light bulb goes off as Gui stares at his hand. Maybe his energy-sucking power is the answer. Annoyed by Gui's dodging skills, Hiwashi starts charging up a much bigger, more concentrated attack. He then unleashes a mega flare, a massive beam of fire meant to turn Gui into a pile of ash. But instead of running, Gui plants his feet, a look of pure resolve on his face. His dragon screams the plan out loud, absorb the flames with the black hole, obviously. This tiny dragon immediately regrets its position as it is about to take the full force of the blast head-on. Gui shoves his hand forward, trying to catch the entire rank fire beam with his palm. This two powers collide in a massive, blinding explosion of energy. Hiwashi gets blown clean off his feet by the sheer force of the backlash, and Gui gets absolutely scorched, his uniform catching fire as he is thrown back in agony. From the sidelines, Hyuga and Orin can only scream his name in horror. Meanwhile, Hiwashi's goons cheer from a safe distance, thinking their boy just scored a clean win. On the ground and smoking, Gui wonders why the hell his black hole did not just absorb the attack. His dragon is absolutely livid, screaming that it almost got incinerated by his failed defense. Hiwashi explains the critical difference. His flames use star elements as fuel, they are not made of them. This dragon just lays it out cold. Gui does not have 1,000 abilities, and his one trick just got hard countered. This little dragon makes a very casual offer to lend Gui its power, as a friend. Then it immediately reveals its true colors, fantasizing about how good it feels to burn humans. From the smoke, Hiwashi just calls him a stubborn cockroach for having the audacity to survive. He stands over a scorched Gui, genuinely surprised the kid is still breathing after that rank attack. But Gui is glaring back with pure defiance, the friendly transfer student act officially dead. Hiwashi decides to finish it, charging up another fireball to burn him into submission for good. With a wild grin, Gui asks just how badly everyone wants to see him burn, a very concerning question. He then grabs Hiwashi's flaming hand, calmly noting this is a bit much for a schoolyard tussle. Our boy starts screaming about how guts win fights, going full-on shonen protagonist. Hiwashi just tells him to stop resisting and accept his fate as a powerless nobody. This fireball is now inches from his face, but Gui is holding on for dear life. Suddenly, his black hole power activates, swirling around their locked hands in a flash of dark energy. Hiwashi watches in total shock as the flames on his own hand just flicker out, and just like that, Gui has him by the wrist, the immediate threat completely neutralized. His opponent is completely baffled, staring at his hand and demanding to know where his fire went. A system window pops up, announcing Gui just absorbed enough energy for a single use of his jet ability. Gui immediately hesitates, realizing that hot spring level laser is way too much to use on a person. Meanwhile, Hiwashi clutches his chest, feeling like all his star element energy has been drained away. He absolutely loses it, screaming at Gui to explain what the hell he just did to his body. In response, Gui just grabs him and executes a perfect shoulder throw, slamming him onto the pavement. Instead of backing down, Gui channels the stolen energy into his own attack. A blinding sphere of light forms in his palm, ready to be unleashed. Hiwashi, still on the ground, tries to throw a desperate punch to counter it, but it is way too late as Gui fires a massive energy beam right at him. This blast sends Hiwashi rocketing into the sky like a firework, leaving him to just tumble helplessly through the air, a truly majestic exit. Down below, the beam carves a massive crater into the school grounds, scattering the onlookers. Hiwashi is left completely unconscious on the pavement, the fight officially over. From the sidelines, Orin is absolutely losing her mind with excitement, while Hyuga just looks stunned. This rest of the students cannot believe their rank leader just got bodied by a total unknown. Even Gui and his little dragon seem a bit shocked by the sheer overkill of that attack. Later, he is sitting on the curb, wondering why the jet ability fired automatically without his consent. With the morning's welcome party over, it is finally time to head to the actual school building. Inside, the teacher announces that a new transfer student will be joining Year 1, Class 1, and in walks a very nervous Gui, who is immediately put on the spot to introduce himself. This class immediately starts whispering. They recognize him as the guy who beat Hiwashi this morning. He just stands there awkwardly, managing to stammer out his name as Kuriboshi Gui. Then he gives a deep bow, apologizing for being late on his very first day. This teacher clarifies that Gui's punishment for fighting was running 10 laps, which is why he is late. Orin just leans back with a grin, totally entertained by the chaos he has already caused. Orin casually strolls up, congratulating Gui on his spectacular debut of fighting and then running laps. He immediately clarifies that his morning also included a fun little trip to the principal's office. A quick flashback shows him getting a very stern lecture, which explains why he is only just now getting to class. Suddenly, a voice cuts in, declaring that he is lucky that is all that happened to him. Of course it is Hyuga, here to remind everyone that fighting on day 1 is usually a one-way ticket to expulsion. She then introduces herself as his new minder, threatening to freeze him solid if he causes any more trouble. Gui and his little dragon are already shivering from her icy aura, stammering out an apology. But Orin just leans over his desk, completely ignoring the lecture to gush about how cool his jet attack was. In fact, she has already analyzed his powers and announces that his ability has 2 distinct parts. This first is the black hole on his right hand, which directly absorbs star elements on contact, and the second is Jet, which unleashes all that stored-up energy in one massive, destructive beam. She even did some light astrophysics homework, connecting his powers to how actual black holes function. Gui just looks confused, admitting the blast fired on its own and he has absolutely no control over it. At that moment, another student approaches and grabs his wrist without a word. This new, friendly-looking guy asks if Gui is the one who used to clean the old school building. Gui is totally baffled, asking how he knew while the student starts, meticulously wiping his hand with a cloth. He explains he remembers Gui's incredible cleaning skills, showing flashbacks of him making the old place spotless. Our boy is completely flustered, clearly not used to getting this much praise for his janitorial prowess. He gives a genuine smile, just thrilled that someone actually noticed all his hard work for once. Meanwhile, his new admirer continues to polish his hand, a perfectly normal and not at all weird interaction. This new guy introduces himself as Kani Abuku, a B-rank who is weirdly eager to be friends. Gui happily shakes his hand, admitting he is unranked, while his dragon questions the guy's grip strength. Kani immediately freaks out, convinced Gui's unranked status means he is secretly a god-tier talent. But their wholesome moment gets interrupted by a hand grabbing Kani's head from behind. Of course it is Hiwashi, back from his morning humiliation and looking for someone to bully. He starts ranting about how the school has gone to the dogs, letting trash like them hang out. Someone off-screen just calls him lame, and Hiwashi absolutely loses his mind, swinging wildly. Before he can even land a punch, a massive green energy blast slams right into his chest. This attack sends him flying across the entire classroom because his day was not bad enough already. He goes crashing straight through the window in a truly spectacular display of getting owned. Gui just watches, completely baffled, as his morning rival gets yeeted out of the building. From the smoke emerges a green-haired student mocking Hiwashi for losing to Gui and picking on a B-ranker. This S-ranker just smirks, calling Hiwashi a weakling for his pathetic display of power. After a dramatic shot of the shattered glass on the floor, this new guy steps forward, listing all of Hiwashi's crimes like a prosecutor. He looms over the defeated bully, adding this morning's fight to the official record of failures. Then in a final power move, he rips the rank insignia right off Hiwashi's uniform. Hiwashi is completely terrified, finally realizing he is messing with a second-year S-ranker. This new top dog introduces himself as Ida Racin with a grin that promises a lot more pain. And to cap it all off, he delivers a brutal kick to the chest, ending the lecture. Ida explains he is here because the first years are pathetically weak, demanding they call him Ida-sama. With a massive sigh, he complains that babysitting them on the principal's orders is just so lame. He continues his rant, revealing that while other S-rankers hunt monsters, Hiwashi got his whole class wiped out. Looking over the students, he declares humanity is doomed if this is what they are working with, a real morale booster. Gui and Kani can only stare in shock at this absolute train wreck of a pep talk. Then Ida gets a brilliant idea, a pop quiz for everyone, effective immediately. This entire class, including our main crew, is completely blindsided by this sudden selection exam. His test is simple: go EVA hunting and take down 5 A-class monsters per person. And for anyone who fails, the penalty is getting their rank stripped before being expelled, no pressure. 2 students immediately freak out, since most of them are B-rank and are now being sent on a suicide mission. Ida just shrugs it off, telling them that is exactly why they are all so lame. His gaze then lands on Gui, singling out the kid who already ran 10 laps this morning. Pointing right at him, Ida declares that he does not acknowledge Gui's transfer into the school. He then accuses Gui of being the suspicious kid from a monster disappearance site, hitting way too close to home. Suddenly, we see the students running down a long, empty road for their exam. Gui is already exhausted, complaining he has been running all day, which is just his life now. A girl with an eye patch named Senri jogs alongside him, offering some surprisingly cheerful encouragement. She confirms they have been running for 3 hours just to get to the exam site. Catching his breath, Gui looks around and realizes this town is not exactly bustling. In fact, the place is a ghost town, completely abandoned and falling apart, the perfect hunting ground. Orin casually explains they are outside the city's safe zone, with the little dragon getting a front row seat. We get a quick history lesson: humanity basically lost, now hiding from giant monsters in a few big cities. Worse yet, these cities are completely isolated because the monsters and magic mess with all travel and comms. Kani mentions the whole humanity is fighting backstory, which Senri immediately shuts down as pure propaganda. Their S-rank chaperone Ida screams at them to stop dawdling, calling them scum, a real morale booster. He spots the exam venue, helpfully reminding them to sprint if they want to avoid expulsion. This sends the students into a full-blown panic run because that threat is extremely effective. Ida, meanwhile, is just chilling on a jeep, having made everyone else run the whole way. In a quick flashback, Ida accuses Gui of being the suspicious kid from that monster disappearance site. Gui immediately panics, realizing if the truth about his little dragon gets out, he is a dead man. Back in the present, he sees Orin and Senri up ahead and forces himself to keep running. After that 3-hour jog, our boy is completely wiped out and barely able to stand. They finally arrive at the exam venue, which turns out to be just a regular-looking forest. Gui desperately tries to catch his breath while Orin stands beside him, looking perfectly fine. She is actually super impressed he kept up with the daily trainees, giving him a huge, encouraging smile. He manages a thumbs up, explaining he trained his stamina because he does not have an alpha ability. Orin thinks that is admirable, and Gui gets all flustered, a rare moment of genuine praise. But the good vibes are cut short by Ida yelling for all the scum to gather for the briefing. He announces the simple test: just head into the mountain and hunt 5 A-class monsters per person, and with a final threat he sends them off, fail and you lose your rank and get expelled. The students immediately start freaking out because this test sounds a lot like a death sentence. One brave soul points out that they are mostly B-rankers and A-class monsters are way out of their league. Ida's thoughtful, nuanced response to this valid concern is a single smug lame. Without even moving, he flicks his finger and a blur of green energy zips past the complaining student. and suddenly the poor guy is sweating, realizing he just became the class example. Ida holds up the kid's rank badge, which he just snatched, casually announcing he is expelled for being lame. As the student collapses, his friend is just stunned, admitting he could not even see Ida move at all. This S-ranker then launches into a lecture, asking if they really think monsters care about their rank on the battlefield. Gui just watches this train wreck, while his little dragon smugly assumes Ida's speech is about its own terrifying power. His motivational speech peaks with him screaming at them to use their non-existent brains or just die. Truly inspiring stuff. Somehow, this reverse psychology actually works, and a few students look fired up instead of horrified. Next thing you know, the whole class is chanting about being elite students who can totally do this. Fueled by pure desperation, they all charge into the misty forest, leaving Gui in the dust. Our boy then takes a deep breath and sprints after them, vowing to do whatever he can to survive. Meanwhile, Orin and Senri hang back, wondering how many of their classmates are about to get wrecked. Orin helpfully clarifies the power gap, and a class Eva is a tank and a B-ranker is just a guy with a rifle. Senri calls it an impossible game, while Orin promises to at least try to keep everyone from dying. But before they can join the fun, Ida stops them, announcing a special, private exam just for the two of them. Both girls are completely floored, realizing they have just been pulled from the frying pan into the fire. Back with Gui, he is running for his life, now fully aware that his own survival is extremely questionable. Gui stands alone in the woods, wondering how the hell he is supposed to find 5 A-class monsters. His little dragon, on the other hand, is absolutely giddy, asking to borrow his body for some fun. Gui just gives it a deadpan look, clearly not interested in a demonic possession timeshare. We get a quick flashback to the principal, who is apparently amused by Gui's first day duel. He lectures a kneeling Gui, saying that simple punishment is not going to be enough for this mess. This principal then warns him to keep the strongest species a secret or other S-rankers will try to kill him. Back in the present, Gui sweats, realizing he is surrounded by way too many dangerous people. He flatly rejects the dragon's offer of help, determined to pass this test on his own. This declaration leaves the little guy looking absolutely heartbroken by the sudden betrayal. But it recovers instantly, flashing a sinister grin and promising to help if he gets in trouble. Gui is not buying the supportive act for a second, calling his little partner a suspicious jerk. Their argument gets cut short by a sudden tremor and a scream from deeper in the forest. A massive, one-eyed boar monster appears, towering over a student who is already on the ground. Gui spots the creature, immediately recognizing it as one of the Evas they are supposed to hunt. This thing is absolutely huge, glowing with a menacing red and green energy. As the monster roars, the poor student just lies there, completely paralyzed with fear. Our boy can only stare, noting the Eva is easily over 3 meters tall. A close-up on its glowing eye has him wondering if this is one of their class targets. This boar rears back on its hind legs, flexing its terrifying power before it attacks, and it slams its hoof down with explosive force right on top of the helpless student. Gui stares in horror, realizing who is about to become monster food. It is Kaney, the friendly B-ranker from class, now completely paralyzed with fear. Without a second thought, our boy sprints forward, yelling for him to hang on. But he has got a tiny problem. He is completely out of energy for his main attack. With no other options, he just throws a desperate, powered-down punch at the beast. His new plan is to literally absorb energy from the boar's eyeball with his black hole ability. And he just slaps his hand right on the monster's leg like he is trying to pet it. This boar's giant eye swivels down, looking extremely unamused by this development. In response, it just casually swats him away, sending him flying across the clearing. That one hit launches him like a ragdoll because physics is a suggestion for A-class monsters. Gui lets out a pretty solid scream, which is fair when you are being yeeted by a giant pig. He slams into a tree and crumples to the ground, definitely not feeling great. Kaney, now safe, can only watch in horror, blaming himself for Gui getting hurt. Coughing up blood, Gui notes that his special body is the only thing keeping him from being a pile of broken bones. His little dragon pops up to offer some stellar advice, basically calling him a weakling for not using its power. Wiping his mouth, Gui grits his teeth and tells his partner to shut its trap. He then grabs a weapon, vowing to defeat the boar on his own without any help. This dragon just calls him a fool, patiently waiting for him to pass out so it can take over. What a pal. As the boar charges again, Gui tells the little demon to just watch from its pocket dimension. But internally, he admits that after all that bravado, he has absolutely no plan to win this fight. With no other options, Gui decides to just do what he can, mustering a small ball of light. He unleashes his star element jet, a last-ditch energy beam aimed right at the monster. This attack actually connects, blasting the giant boar right in its ugly mug. Turns out his little hand slap earlier managed to absorb just enough energy for one desperate shot. His desperation blast explodes directly on the boar's single, massive eyeball, and it does absolutely nothing, leaving the monster completely unfazed and Gui horrified. To make matters worse, he is now completely out of juice, which is a fantastic development. Suddenly, the boar looks up, confused by a bunch of pretty bubbles floating down from the sky. Gui is just as baffled, wondering if the forest suddenly turned into a kid's birthday party. This A-class monster is genuinely distracted by the bubbles, its murderous rage temporarily on pause. One bubble pops right on its eye, which is apparently the final straw for this beast. With an enraged roar, the boar charges forward, ready to flatten everything in its path, but it misses, smashing into a tree as the bubbles continue to mess with its aim. Kaney pops out of nowhere, yelling that this is their chance to execute his genius plan, running away. We see it as Kaney making the bubbles, proving he is more than just professional monster bait. Gooey does not need to be told twice, immediately booking it out of there. He sprints for his life as Kaney calls out to him from behind. This two of them successfully escape, putting some much-needed distance between them and the boar. Kaney is a blubbering mess, thanking Gooey for the save while crying his eyes out. Still running, Gooey asks the million-dollar question, was that thing asterisk really in a class monster? Kaney, still running for his life, confirms that based on its size and power, that was 100% in a class monster. Gooey gives him a grateful smile, admitting Kaney's bubble distraction was the only reason they got away. His new friend just waves it off, saying his power has no killing potential and he was too panicked to use it right. That is when Gooey notices one of the colorful bubbles has actually stuck to his uniform. He tries to pick it off, but the thing is surprisingly resilient and just will not come off his finger. While Kaney is having an existential crisis about his lack of talent, Gooey is now in a full-on war with this super sticky bubble. A closer look reveals the bubble is not just sitting there, it is practically soaking into the fabric of his clothes. After that near-death experience, Kaney officially announces he has made up his mind to withdraw from the exam. But Gooey gets a sudden flash of genius, telling Kaney his ability is amazing and could actually help them beat the boar. Kaney is just completely baffled, asking if our boy even heard a single word of his "I am quitting" speech. This too finally skid to a halt, gasping for air after successfully executing the runaway plan. A ghostly image of the boar looms behind them, a fun little reminder of how close they were to being pancaked. Gooey then gets right to the point, asking what he meant about quitting the entire school. Looking downcast, Kaney admits he is dropping out because he is completely talentless. Our boy is shocked, pointing out that you do not just stumble into an elite academy by being useless. To demonstrate his point, Kaney holds out his hand to show Gooey exactly what his power is. He reveals his entire alpha ability is just making pretty adhesive bubbles. That is it, no secret death ray attached. In a quick flashback, he explains that Hachai only values raw destructive power like their top-tier classmates possess. Because of this, everyone has apparently always made fun of him for having such a weak non-combat ability. But his tragic monologue is cut short when he sees Gooey squatting down and poking a bubble in the sand, peak focus right there. Our boy explains he was just testing the bubbles, realizing they are actually pretty incredible. Turns out his bubbles do not just stick to surfaces, they seep in and solidify the material itself. Beaming with excitement, Gooey declares this useless power is actually perfect for hunting Evas. This praise just makes Kaney break down, insisting he has tried his best and it is completely useless. Kaney then asks why he is so cheerful, pointing out that even Gooey's own powerful ability failed miserably. Gooey just gives a calm smile, admitting Kaney's right about his own failure. He then shares a memory of someone telling him that worth comes from actions, not innate abilities. So with a new plan forming, he proposes they team up to take down that eyeball boar for good. Looking him dead in the eye, Gooey asks Kaney to trust him and lend him his power. His new friend is just stunned into silence, completely baffled by this sudden turn of events. And speak of the devil, the boar is back on its feet, shaking off the bubble distraction. Yep, the bubbles in its eye have finally dissolved, and it looks even angrier than before. Gooey just smirks, holding up a rock and saying this was all part of his master plan, sure Jan. With a determined yell, he winds up and hurls the rock with everything he has got. This pebble smacks the giant monster right on its butt, a truly devastating opening move. In response, the boar turns its head, its massive eye basically asking, did you just throw a rock at me? Standing out in the open, Gooey taunts the monster, yelling for it to come get the prey it failed to catch. This works a little too well as the boar lets out a furious roar and charges forward like a freight train. He immediately books it, now playing the role of live bait with a very angry, very large monster right behind him. From above, we see just how screwed he is. That thing is unbelievably fast and gaining on him. Kaney, however, is still stuck in his self-pity phase, insisting he'd just be a hindrance. But Gooey just flashes a grin, yelling that it is fine and he is going to do his part anyway. With that, he is off, leading the absolutely furious boar on a merry chase through the woods. This monster's tusk swings and just barely misses him, the shockwave alone sending him flying. He gets a fantastic view of the sky, his face a perfect mask of "I regret everything." After tumbling to the ground, he looks back to see the freight train of a monster is still coming. Pushing himself up, Gooey grits his teeth, knowing he is just a little bit further from his goal. That is when he realizes the boar is practically on top of him, having closed the distance in seconds. Suddenly, a swarm of very pretty, very out-of-place bubbles floats into the frame. These bubbles immediately start swarming the boar's legs, much to its confusion. They pop and stick, creating a foamy, adhesive mess that is clearly messing with its footing. This A-class beast just stares down, completely baffled by its sudden, sparkly bubble bath. From a safe distance, Kaney is the one unleashing the bubble storm, slowing the monster down. He's got his hands out, concentrating with everything he has to support his new friend. Kaney admits he is too slow to run with Gooey, so he is just going to do what he can from here. It turns out Gooey's little pep talk was all the motivation he needed to finally act. Gooey sees the boar's speed has dropped significantly, realizing this is his chance to win. Looking up, he spots the objective, a white handkerchief tied to a tree branch. He yells out that he sees the marker, confirming he has led the monster right where he wanted it. And right on cue, a massive blast of light erupts from the ground as the trap is sprung. Gooey leaps into the air with perfect timing as the boar charges headfirst into the trap. This monster looks up in pure disbelief, finally realizing it has been completely outsmarted. From below, we see it plunging straight into a pit filled to the brim with canny sticky bubbles. This A-class beast flails helplessly, its own momentum sealing its fate in the hole. With the monster successfully neutralized, Gooey lands and celebrates their brilliant Wile E. Coyote-style plan. He then takes a very deliberate step forward, landing directly on his intended target. And our boy is literally standing on the monster's giant eyeball, taunting it while it is stuck in bubble goo. Turns out the whole pit is an adhesive nightmare, making it impossible for the boar to even move. Gooey gives a little speech about using your abilities smartly, placing a hand on the boar's head, before activating his black hole to drain every last drop of energy from the immobilized monster. A system window confirms he's got just enough juice for one more Starjet attack. He practically smashes the yes button, gathering a massive ball of light in his palm. With a final yell, he unleashes the beam point blank, a full power blast right to the dome. The sheer force of the attack fills the entire pit with a blinding, world-ending light. Standing over the defeated monster, Gooey pumps his fist, celebrating their victory over an A-class EVA. But then the boar's body starts to glow with an ominous, explosive energy, and a massive detonation erupts from the monster's corpse because of course it has a death rattle. This sends Gooey flying backwards out of the pit, completely blindsided by the after-death special. After crashing, his little dragon pops up to mock him, basically saying, "Serves you right, what a pal." In the pit, a massive glowing gem is all that is left of the class monster. Gooey stares at the shiny loot left behind while his dragon companion correctly identifies it as an eyeball jewel. Caney frantically scrambles down the pit wall to check on his new friend after that massive explosion. Our boy gets to his feet, complaining about a bruised butt and the sudden appearance of a sparkly rock. His partner, however, looks at the gem with a sudden, intense seriousness. He reveals it as an element stone, which is what happens when an EVA's power crystallizes after death. Apparently, each stone holds the unique properties of the monster, and this one came from the boar's superpowered eye. Gooey puts it all together, finally understanding that monsters basically turn into valuable loot drops. Caney confirms these things are concentrated power-ups and are worth an absolute fortune. They can be used to recharge abilities, forge magic weapons, or just make you filthy rich. This little dragon gets a greedy glint in its eye, whispering about destroying humanity if it gets the stone totally normal pet behavior. It then puts on its most trustworthy, not at all evil face, promising Gooey this is a fantastic idea. A bright flash of light signals the end of that very short and very sketchy negotiation, and Gooey is holding the pouting dragon at arm's length, calling him out for being way too suspicious. Caney just looks confused as Gooey awkwardly explains he was just talking to himself, not his demonic staff. Changing the subject, Gooey gives Caney a huge smile, thanking him for making their victory possible. Caney gets all flustered, insisting Gooey was the real hero in a very wholesome back and forth. Now a certified monster hunting duo, they get hyped to go hunt the other 9 monsters they need for the exam. Elsewhere in the forest, some smug-looking guy with green energy is effortlessly taking down another student. He scoffs that the S-rankers and A-rankers are pathetically weak, wondering if the exam is just broken. Down on the ground, 2 defeated female students can only look on, completely outmatched by this new threat. This new green-haired guy scoffs at the exam, wondering how this training prepares anyone for real combat. He looms over a defeated student named Hyoga, condescendingly asking what she is even fighting for. Then he calls her spineless because her ability lacks any killing intent. What a great guy. A quick flashback shows some grim-faced commander ordering her to eliminate a strongest species if it goes berserk. Back in the present, Mr. Greenhair warns her that at this rate, she's just going to die. Hyoga can only kneel there, completely demoralized and overwhelmed by his power. He then turns to another down student, Unagi, telling her to stop making a fool of everyone. Turns out he knows she has been hiding her true alpha ability this entire time. But the girl with the eye patch just grins, cheekily admitting he finally figured her out. This sudden confidence completely shocks both him and the other girl, Hyoga. Recovering his massive ego, he declares that nobody who looks down on him gets away with it. He then looks to the sky, dramatically announcing that it is time for his big moment. With a firm step, he prepares to unleash whatever he has been planning on them. Elsewhere, the small group of students who actually passed the exam have gathered with their loot. It is a very smug-looking bunch, each holding a collection of colorful element stones. An instructor notes that only 6 out of about 30 students managed to succeed. Just as the final inspection is about to start, a voice frantically yells for them to wait. And here come Gooey and Caney, sprinting in at the last possible second, looking like a mess. Gooey is clutching the gems they earned from the boar like they are the most precious things in the world. He proudly presents their haul, announcing they beat in a class EVA, so that means they passed, right? This green-haired instructor eyes our boys and their handful of shiny gems. With a condescending smirk, he asks if they really teamed up to pass the test. Gooey and Caney beam, proudly confirming they used teamwork just like the rules said. After a moment of pure annoyance, the instructor begrudgingly accepts their logic. He then announces to everyone that these 2 have passed, while the rest are officially expelled. This guy adds that if they cannot even pass this, they are just future cannon fodder anyway. Gooey just sweats a little, clearly not expecting this level of brutal honesty. Their instructor then launches into a story about a whole class getting wiped out for being idiots. Hyoga, one of the girls who got wrecked earlier, looks down in shame at the mention of failure. This whole point of the exam, he explains, was to force them to think beyond their own power. And now for the grand prize, he announces they are all going to attack an S-class EVA colony tomorrow. All the other students who passed are justifiably freaking out at this sudden death sentence. Our boy Gui is just confused, asking what the heck a colony even is. Standing before them, the instructor prepares to drop some horrifying exposition. Turns out these EVAs are terraforming the planet and have already started racking up a body count. So this exam was actually just a recruitment drive for a high-stakes extermination mission. He then points to Hyuga and Unagi, ordering them to join despite being rotten high-rankers. Unagi, ever the optimist, just grins and says they are all totally dead, love the attitude. With the bombshell dropped, he dismisses them for the night to go collect the failures. Gui seems relieved that the other students are being picked up, completely missing the bigger picture. Hyuga is still processing how Gui, the strongest species kid, actually passed the exam. Meanwhile, the green-haired guy is plotting, vowing to use anyone he can for his own goals. But if they step out of line, he is more than happy to dispose of them himself. What a team player. This whole group is now on a bus, heading straight for the front lines at night. Inside, it is a quiet, awkward ride to their potential doom with all the survivors. Gui does the math, realizing they will be at the S-Class EVA nest by morning. He glances around the bus at his fellow soon-to-be monster fodder. Hyuga is sleeping peacefully, blissfully unaware of the death mission ahead. Even Unagi is out cold, leading Gui to think everyone's just exhausted from the exam. He is still reeling from the sudden mission, especially so soon after the last major attack. Our boy flashes back to his old life, remembering being powerless and getting beaten down. But now he has friends to protect, which is a pretty terrible time to get new motivation. Thinking about the EVA nest colony has him realizing just how dangerous this is. A memory of some commander's threat surfaces. If his secret gets out, he is a target for elimination. This means he cannot risk using his strongest power, leaving him severely handicapped. He is stuck with just the star element jet, which is basically running on empty. His mom's words echo in his head about how actions define a person's worth. This thought of dying and leaving her alone is clearly weighing on him heavily. With all this pressure, his resolve hardens as he clenches his fist tightly. But he is visibly trembling, and a voice from behind calls him out on it. Busted. This little dragon pops up in his hand, ready to give a totally unsolicited pep talk. It floats up, claiming to have eons of experience that humans cannot even comprehend. This tiny demon lectures Gui on battle, saying cowards do not even make it to the fight. They just end up begging for their lives immediately, not a great survival strategy apparently. Then it gets all prophetic, promising Gui will be begging for its power soon enough. This little guy is practically drooling at the thought of Gui being desperate for its help. Gui finally snaps out of his funk, telling his demonic staff to just hold on a second. With a tight fist, he steals his resolve, completely done with the doom and gloom. He sits up straight, deciding he is not going to be anyone's cannon fodder today. This whole bus is just a quiet ride to oblivion with our cast of survivors. Finally, the bus arrives at its destination, a forest that just screams, "You are all gonna die here." Green-hair guy Ida steps out and immediately calls his new squad trash, great for team morale. Unagi, the eye-patch girl, just stands there looking completely over this guy's whole vibe. Kaney and another beer anchor look on, with Kaney clearly having second thoughts about this whole adventure. A couple more beer anchors stand by, probably wondering if it is too late to get expelled. Even though a ranker in this group looks like she'd rather be anywhere else right now. With everyone assembled, they take their first steps toward the S-Class monster nest. Their fearless leader points to a super inviting, not at all ominous cave where the colony lives. Ida grins, explaining the monsters already know they are here but are too cozy to come out and play. He then points at Kaney, calling him Handkerchief, and orders him to give the mission briefing, talk about being put on the spot. Kaney explains the nest is basically a slice of the EVA's hellish home planet. Worse, the air itself buffs the monsters and nerfs humans down to 30% power. Ida smugly congratulates Kaney for getting it, while also calling him lame. Peak leadership. This guy rants that bombs are useless and burying them alive does not even work. Apparently, only their special alpha abilities are capable of scratching these things. Gui clenches his fist, looking like he is actually ready to throw down despite the terrible odds. With the doom briefing done, Ida calls on Unagi to step up to the plate. She just stretches casually, commenting on how tough an S-Class nest will be, zero fear. Then she grins, saying it sounds fun and she is ready to go. This girl is built different. Her eye patch comes off, revealing a golden eye that is basically a high-tech targeting system. She activates her celestial observation, one eye glowing with immense power. A massive vortex of energy rips open, giving her a direct view into the enemy's lair. Inside is just a swirling abyss of purple energy and ominous shadows, real inviting. Unagi calmly analyzes the chaotic view, trying to make sense of the monster maze. She notes the star elements are so dense that it is messing with her observation. Her vision picks up a class Eva's crawling around, which she immediately nicknames bipedal ants. Kaney is just blown away, realizing her power can map out the entire nest and its inhabitants. With her recon active, the layout of this deadly maze is finally becoming clear. She pinpoints the boss, a massive S-Class Eva she casually decides to call Mother. and we get a lovely close-up of Mother's monstrous foot ready to stomp them all flat. But her observation reveals something new, a humanoid Eva, glowing with a seriously bad attitude. This thing immediately grabs one of the smaller ant Evas with pure aggression, and then it just smashes the poor thing into the ground like a piece of trash. Unagi watches in horror as the humanoid Eva starts eating its own kind. It even seems to be enjoying its little snack, which is just all kinds of wrong. Suddenly, its eye flares as it looks right at her, realizing it is being watched. Unagi completely panics, yanking herself out of her observation trance. She stumbles back to Ida, frantically reporting that this is not an S-class nest. Turns out it is a nest for an S-plus class humanoid Eva, a monster from humanity's nightmares. With a grim look, she states the obvious. With their current team, they need to retreat or die. Gui is just sweating bullets, trying to process this sudden escalation in doom. From a distance, we see Unagi formally recommending a full retreat to the entire squad. This other students are just as shocked, having never even heard of a humanoid type. Our boy Gui, ever the scholar, asks what an S-plus class is since he thought S was the top. Kaney looks like he is about to have an aneurysm, offering to give Gui a quick lesson on not dying. He explains the ranking system. F to S is for humans, where S is the peak for a soldier. There are only 10 S rankers in the country, and they are the only ones who can solo S-class Evas. But this humanoid is S+, a rank that exists because it is beyond what any single human can defeat. A flashback shows it took two of the country's strongest S rankers just to barely take one down. And to make things worse, Unagi adds this one has probably been breeding and eating Evas to get even stronger. Unagi frantically explains this nest is just a farm for the humanoid, screaming that they have to retreat. Ida just listens calmly, saying he understands the situation and is ready to give his conclusion, and his brilliant decision is that the operation will commence immediately, because of course it is. Gui and Kaney are completely floored, looking like they have just been handed a death sentence. This instructor's logic is that the humanoid absorbs power from its prey, so waiting just makes it stronger. He then declares with zero irony that this team of rookies will take the monster down. Our boy Gui is just flabbergasted, completely unable to process this level of tactical insanity. Right on cue, his demonic staff pops in to predict Gui will be begging for its power soon enough. Gui clenches his fist, trying to fight down the terror and vowing that he will not lose. But the sheer pressure sends him into a panic, grabbing his head as he starts to spiral. This other students just watch on, openly wondering if he has completely lost his mind. Surprisingly, Kaney speaks up, admitting he is scared too and was shaking the whole ride over. But then he raises his own fist, declaring that despite the fear, he is going to fight. With newfound resolve, he says he will do his best to help S+ class be damned. Hyoga looks over, totally surprised by Kaney's sudden burst of courage. A small smile appears as she thinks about how he always manages to inspire her. This motivates her to step forward, volunteering to take the lead as an S-ranker. She stands before Ida, formally offering to be the vanguard for this suicide mission. Ida actually agrees, telling her to show the lame cowards how a real student fights peak leadership. With her orders accepted, Hyoga prepares to lead the charge into the nest. Without a second thought, Hyoga leaps straight into the ominous cave entrance. She closes her eyes, gathering a massive amount of chilling blue energy around her. A huge vortex of power begins to swirl as she prepares a seriously big attack. This others watch in shock as an incredible amount of star elements converges on her. Her eyes snap open with a terrifying intensity. She is ready to let it rip. With a cry, she unleashes her Ice Star ability, a torrent of absolute zero. This blast of pure cold shoots down into the nest like an Arctic meteor. Razor-sharp waves of ice energy tear through the cave's entrance. Her attack expands rapidly, flash freezing everything in its path with overwhelming force. All those A-class Ant Evas are caught directly in the icy onslaught, and they are instantly turned into monstersicles, frozen solid where they stand. This entire cave entrance is now just a giant, glowing block of ice. Her power continues to spread, creating a massive glacier inside the enemy's lair. Kaney and the Orank girl are just speechless, realizing the cave is completely frozen over. This Oranker explains that not only are the Evas stopped, but their elemental advantage is gone too. This is Hyoga's true power, an absolute freeze that stops everything it touches. Gui is just sweating, getting a first-hand look at what an S-ranker can actually do. Ida immediately starts screaming for everyone's attention, ready for his big leader moment. He announces that Hyoga has neutralized the nest, giving them a clear shot to use their powers. Then he proudly declares that with 2 S-rankers on the team, they are good to go, conveniently including himself. Ida kicks off his big pep talk, reminding everyone they have Unaga's recon and are the school's finest. His logic is flawless. The enemy has 2 big monsters, but they have a whole team, so they have totally got this. He then bravely volunteers himself and Hyoga for the S+ humanoid, leaving the S-class boss to the rookies. What a leader. And somehow this absolutely insane plan actually works, getting the whole squad fired up and ready to die. With their suicide pact sealed, the entire team charges headfirst into the frozen maw of the nest. Deep inside, something with way too many teeth is already smiling, just waiting for them. This thing is just radiating pure, unadulterated, fresh meat for dinner energy. It is the humanoid Eva, perched on its last meal and sensing a whole buffet has just arrived. This team sprints down the ice tunnel as Ida yells that their target is deep inside. Gui runs alongside the S-rankers, trying his best to keep up with the suicide squad's blistering pace. He glances at one of the flash-frozen Aunt Evas, completely stunned by the sight. This is Hyoga's power firsthand. The entire cave and its inhabitants are just monstercicles now. Up ahead, Unagi acts as their living GPS, calling out directions from her celestial observation. But her recon suddenly picks up a nasty surprise, 4A-class Evas clinging to the ceiling. Before anyone can even blink, one of the ceiling crawlers dives straight for them with a shriek. But one of the beer anchors steps up, hands already glowing with power, ready to intercept. This is Tada, who unleashes a rapid-fire barrage of star element blasts at the monster. Another beer anchor, Mamakawa, literally turns an Eva to stone just by touching it. Then Tsukuda summons a massive energy scythe, slicing another one of the ambushers clean in half. Finally, the anchor Hazel finishes the last one off with an explosive kick, blowing it to bits. Another beer anchor, Yamino Zen, traps one in a water prison while casually reading a book. Then Iwatake Ken follows up, turning his arm to stone for a devastating rock punch. Gui just watches this whole display, completely blown away by their teamwork. He cannot believe how easily these guys are wiping out A-class monsters. This just makes him feel more useless, wondering how he can even contribute. Ida orders the team to mop up the stragglers while Hyoga saves her strength. But as they run, one of the rankers senses something is very wrong. He asks Hyoga if her ice attack worked, and she confirms it froze everything. Unagi even backs her up, saying her observation saw all activity cease. This only explanation is that the S-class mother is just spawning more of them. Suddenly, the entire ice tunnel starts to rumble and shake around them. Our boy Gui immediately freaks out, thinking it is just a random earthquake. Hazel looks back in terror as the cave entrance begins to collapse. Unagi frantically reactivates her celestial observation to see what is going on. Her vision shows a massive boulder falling from the ceiling to block their only way out. It crashes down with a deafening roar, sealing the entrance completely. This whole team stops dead in their tracks, realizing they are now trapped in the nest. And at that exact moment, Hyoga's massive ice prison starts to crack. This fracture spread rapidly through the frozen walls and the monstercicles. With a massive shatter, the ice breaks apart and the entire horde thaws out instantly. Suddenly, the whole ice prison shatters, catching Hyoga and the others completely by surprise. Hyoga realizes in horror that her ultimate ice star ability was just forcibly cancelled. At the same time, Unagi detects a massive spike in star elements coming from behind them. And there it is, the S-plus class humanoid Eva standing right where their exit used to be. That nightmare-fueled grin confirms it is the same monster Unagi saw eating its own kind. Gui is totally confused, wondering how the hell it got behind them in the first place. Unagi puts it together. The humanoid used the frozen A-class Evas as a distraction. It then looped around the tunnels to block their only escape route, a classic pincer move. So this is what an S-plus class is, a monster with actual tactical intelligence. That beer anchor Tada is absolutely livid, shaking with pure rage at being outsmarted. He tries to unleash his power, screaming about how dare this thing look down on humans, but nothing happens. His powers completely fizzle out, leaving him wide open. In the next instant, he is violently yanked off his feet by an invisible force. This humanoid has him by the throat, lifting him up like he is nothing. His teammates can only watch in absolute terror as he is taken down. Tada gets slammed to the ground, completely neutralized before he could even fight back. Unagi explains why their powers failed. The nest is now flooded with elements hostile to humans. Ida actually steps up, telling them to use the filament stones they were given to channel their abilities. With a rallying cry, the entire squad activates their powers, ready for a real fight. But the humanoid just stands there over Tada's body, making Ida wonder if it is being cautious. One of the students points out the obvious flaw: they have a limited number of those power-boosting stones. But Ida, ever the leader, says he has a plan that just happens to be a huge drain on their resources. Suddenly, this other kid steps up, claiming his ability might be the perfect counter to the nest's power drain. His power manifests as black hole, a swirling vortex of dark purple energy. This guy is literally creating a miniature black hole in the palm of his hand. Ida explains the kid's power is sucking up all the hostile elements, clearing the air for everyone else. With the interference gone, Ida's own power flares to life in a brilliant green flash. He immediately orders everyone to form a perimeter around their new human battery charger. Their whole strategy now hinges on protecting this one kid while he holds back the debuff. And the humanoid just watches this whole scramble, completely unimpressed. Ida declares it is time for the S-rankers to handle the big guy just like his genius plan dictated. With that, he and Hyoga charge straight at the S-plus class monster. This two of them sprint towards the towering Eva, looking ridiculously small by comparison. Hyoga immediately starts gathering her ice energy, ready for another massive attack. She slams her hands down, summoning a massive, absolute ice wall from the ground. A wall of razor-sharp ice erupts right at the humanoid's feet, trying to trap it, but the monster just stands on top of the spikes like it is a welcome mat. Ida flies into the air, yelling praise for Hyoga's totally ineffective opening move. In his hand, a swirling sphere of green star elements begins to form. He then unleashes his own power, a massive blast of energy aimed right at the ceiling. Ida's big moment finally arrives as he unleashes his air slash, a massive blade of wind. And it actually connects, slicing the S-humanoid into a half-dozen falling pieces. Wasting no time, Ida stands over the remains to deliver a victory speech about humanity's power. Even Hazel is impressed, remarking that his legendary compressed air blade can cut through anything. He then plants his foot firmly on the monster's severed head for a little extra dramatic flair. Our hero then declares he will slice it to pieces, which he supposedly just did. Suddenly, a disembodied voice starts laughing, finding this whole display interesting. This monster's eyes flare back to life, proving that being diced up was a minor inconvenience. Before Ida can finish his speech, a massive energy beam erupts from the torso and blasts him point blank. This beam is so intense it carves a massive trench into the cave wall behind him. Hyoga can only watch in horror, screaming Ida's name as the smoke clears. Meanwhile, the monster's severed parts begin to reassemble, starting with a clenching fist. Gross tendrils writhe and connect as its arm pulls itself back into one piece. With a flash of purple energy, the humanoid just casually reattaches its own limb. This rest of its bisected body begins knitting itself back together in a truly horrifying way. Hyoga's face is just a mask of pure disbelief. This was definitely not in the plan. That giant hole in its chest completely seals up, good as new. Standing tall once more, the fully regenerated monster announces that it is hungry. Its toothy grin widens as it clarifies exactly what it wants: food and lots of it. Hazel completely panics, screaming that it regenerated and ordering everyone into a defensive formation. This black hole kid strains to maintain his power, absorbing all the hostile energy. But the overload is too much for him and he collapses to the ground screaming. A teammate turns in shock, calling out his name. Wait, that is Gooey. Our boy is in absolute agony, the hostile energy corrupting his hand from the inside. She realizes he has absorbed way too much of the monster's power and it is killing him. With their human battery offline, the S-plus humanoid starts radiating a terrifying aura. And it immediately lunges forward, taking advantage of their sudden vulnerability. Tsukuda tries to summon his star scythe, hoping to intercept the monster's attack. But his power just sputters out into a pathetic wisp of energy. The debuff is back online. He is completely baffled, wondering why his ability failed even with the filament stone. When an instant later, something slams into his back and he just chokes out a gasp. Hitting the ground hard, he is completely neutralized before he even knew what hit him. This humanoid looms over him, mockingly advising him to hold on tighter next time. Its grin widening as it enjoys the absolute chaos and despair it is causing. Hazel confirms their worst fears. Their powers are sealed again by the monster's sinister elements. But Hyoga is not about to let that stop her, unleashing a massive ice attack. A forest of massive ice pillars erupts from the ground, aimed right at the humanoid, and the attack connects, impaling the monster from every angle in a brutal display, leaving Hyoga standing ready to protect her fallen comrades in a true hero moment. As she immediately calls off the mission, ordering a full retreat while she buys them time. This humanoid just smirks, soaking in the absolute terror it has created. Suddenly, a new sound echoes through the cave, making Hyoga and the others look up in fear. And just like that, a whole new swarm of green glowing monsters appears, sending everyone flying. A green-haired guy states the obvious: with the ice gone, they are completely surrounded. Their S-plus class host announces it is finally time to enjoy its meal, which is a bad sign for everyone. Hazel and the others can only stare in despair, convinced this is the end of the line. Meanwhile, Gui is still on the ground, clutching his corrupted hand and drowning in guilt. These new green Evas immediately start carving through the remaining students with brutal efficiency. Hyoga, ever the S-ranker, manages to throw up a massive ice shield to block one of them. It is not nearly enough, as another student gets swatted away like a fly. Our boy Gui just watches, tears in his eyes, blaming himself for all of this. His inner monologue is just a loop of "it is my fault," as another monster lands nearby. He and his teammate look up to find a massive green Eva looming right over them. This thing is absolutely gigantic, blocking out what little light is left in the cave. It raises a massive blade arm, preparing to turn our boy into a fine paste. Gui can only look up in pure terror as the killing blow comes right for his head. With a blinding flash, the attack seems to land in a brutal, direct hit. But in the darkness, a single glowing white eye snaps open with immense power. A completely new white-haired figure emerges, radiating a brilliant golden aura. This being unleashes a cosmic beam, revealing a sealed dragon inside a swirling nebula. What is happening? Gui's consciousness drifts into a golden void, a place he vaguely recognizes from his dreams. A massive armored dragon appears, announcing that some big prophecy is happening way ahead of schedule. This dragon then calls him the strongest species, leaving Gui completely stunned by the title drop. This cosmic dragon, sealed in a bubble, tells Gui to take a hard look at his current dire situation. On a floating screen, he sees his physical body about to be splattered by the Eva's attack. This dragon offers a classic deal with the devil: give it his body and it'll wipe out those monsters for him. Gui's not having it, telling the dragon to just lend him its power like usual since they are a package deal. This dragon just scoffs, telling our boy he is seriously misunderstanding their power dynamic here. It reminds him that the S-plus humanoid can regenerate from any attack his teammates can dish out. Then it twists the knife, showing Hyoga fighting for her life and asking if he really cares what happens to them. Hyoga is barely holding on, her ice shield the only thing stopping a direct hit from one of the Evas. One of his classmates is already down, completely helpless as the green monsters move in for the kill. This rest of the squad is wounded and backed into a corner, completely outmatched by the swarm. For the final blow, the dragon shows his female teammate, smugly pointing out that she is important to him, is not she. Gui is absolutely seething, trapped between his own will and the lives of his friends. This dragon leans in, demanding to know if he finally understands who is in charge and telling him to just give up his body already. He is completely dwarfed by the dragon's sheer presence with absolutely no good options left. This agony on his face says it all. He knows what he has to do and he hates it. Defeated, he places a hand on his chest and finally agrees to lend the dragon his body. This dragon's eyes narrow in pure, sinister satisfaction. The deal is struck. Gui tries to set some ground rules, reminding the dragon about the last time he had to take his body back. He is very clear this is a loan, not a purchase, and his friends are strictly off-limits. This dragon's like sure whatever, calling himself the strongest species and promising to behave, which is not reassuring. Back in reality, the Eva's massive blade is just inches from turning Gui and his friend into a fine red mist. But a completely different, terrifyingly confident smirk spreads across Gui's face. And with one hand, he catches the giant energy blade, his eyes glowing with the dragon's power. This new and improved Gui effortlessly stops the monster's attack, looking bored while doing it. He then casually swings the blade's own energy in a massive arc right back at its owner. This sends the giant Eva flying backwards, completely overpowered by its own attack. It crashes into the cave wall in a massive explosion of rock and dust. His teammate can only stare from the ground, completely baffled by what just happened. She recognizes the star element energy, but the sheer power level is just impossible. A massive wave of brilliant blue energy suddenly erupts from Gui's body. It shoots into the sky, forming a massive pillar of pure, unrestrained power. In the center stands Gui, now covered in glowing tattoos as the strongest species is officially unleashed. This dragon, now in full control, cracks a grin and says it has been a while since he has been free. He explains that last time, Gui's own ability was holding him back, but the training wheels are off now. Cracking his knuckles, he gets ready to test out his new ride. He even compliments the body, curious to see what the strongest species is really capable of. Then he turns to the remaining green monsters with a look that says, "You are all about to have a very bad day." Dragon Gui floats ominously, deciding it is time to test out his brand new meat suit. Without wasting a second, he is on top of a green Eva, delivering a savage punch. His fist connects with a massive explosion of blue energy, completely vaporizing the monster. This dragon then inspects his new hand, pretty pleased with the durability of this model. Another Eva screeches and dives right at him, clearly not learning from its friend's mistake. In response, he throws a high kick that generates a massive blade of pure energy, which completely decapitates the monster, sending its head flying into a million pieces. Standing in the aftermath, he is still just testing the specs, noting the body's good reaction time. This rest of the green monster swarm starts screeching, finally realizing this is not the same kid. Dragon Gui just smirks, calling them weaklings and promising a lesson in what real strength is. He then crouches down, ready to show them that lesson firsthand, up close and personal. Our boy launches himself directly into the swarm, aiming for maximum chaos. He becomes a whirlwind of destruction, laughing as he tears through the monsters effortlessly. Surrounded by crackling energy, the dragon is just loving this freedom, calling it exhilarating. Suddenly, the S+ humanoid's eye reflects the whole scene, clearly paying attention now. Inside its eye, we see the reflection of Gui's powered-up form, a tiny god of destruction. This S-humanoid is suddenly getting blasted back by an overwhelming wave of this new power. It can barely handle the incredible energy, completely shocked by this sudden turn of events. A voice echoes through its mind, a simple, repeated command to destroy everything. Clutching its head, the monster wonders if this is the true power of the strongest species. A woman in a wheelchair reveals the big secret. The monster's power was sealed by splitting its soul from its body, and now all that sealed away energy is pouring directly into the dragon currently joyriding in Gui's body. A system window pops up, showing the strongest species release rate is at a terrifying 0.002%. Gui's consciousness is completely baffled by this release rate and what it could possibly mean. He remembers the last time this happened it was way lower, so this is definitely not an improvement. Then a massive red warning appears. If the rate hits a measly 1%, the dragon is permanently free. Our boy is justifiably freaking out, wondering why the apocalypse threshold is set to basically nothing. Meanwhile, back in reality, Dragon Gui is just a blur of motion, absolutely wrecking the remaining monsters. He stands on a pile of monster parts, complaining that this warm-up is just too easy, total diva. Finally, he turns his attention to the S+ humanoid, the only one left who might be a challenge. With a cocky grin, he asks the S-class monster if it can actually put up a decent fight for once. This S-humanoid seems to recognize the strongest species' power, its own aura flaring in response. Back in his mind, Gui is still stuck on that 1% number, the horror finally sinking in. He's getting blasted back by the sheer energy flowing through his own soul space, and that is when he sees it. The dragon's spherical prison is starting to crack under the strain. Gui can only stare in absolute terror as the cracks spread across the orb's surface. This dragon taunts him from inside, saying even a tiny bit of its power is enough to shatter the seal. It all clicks for Gui. The dragon played him, planning to use his body to break free from the start. Absolutely furious, he declares the deal is off and charges forward to take his body back. Good luck with that. He looks up at the torrent of power, trying to fight the overwhelming energy that is tearing his soul apart. Gui's consciousness spots a familiar hole, remembering it is the same escape route he used last time. With a burst of hope, he makes a mad dash for the light, ready to reclaim his body, but he just face plants into something invisible, getting zapped and thrown back violently. Dazed and confused, our boy wonders what the hell he just ran into. Shaking it off, he goes for round two, determined to reach that exit no matter what. This time, his hand smacks flat against a solid barrier, stopping him cold. He realizes with dawning horror that he is trapped behind an invisible wall. A system message explains the bad news. The dragon's power is taking up too much space for him to get back in. This reality sinks in that he is completely locked out of his own body and he is not taking it well. Meanwhile, Dragon Gui stands over a pile of monster parts, facing off against the S+ humanoid. A cocky smirk on his face, he asks the last monster standing if it is ready to begin. He is clearly savoring having a body again, telling the S+ it is going to be his sparring partner. This S+ humanoid actually recognizes him, calling him the king of Evas and the strongest species. Dragon Gui is just pleased they can have a nice chat in the native monster tongue. His opponent seems to find the concept of happy a bit confusing, clenching its fist. It powers up, its fist glowing with a menacing purple energy ready to throw down. This S+ humanoid's body begins to warp and contort, getting way more spiky and dangerous looking. Massive spikes erupt from its back as it continues its monstrous power-up. Fully transformed, it announces its plan: eat the strongest species and get a massive power boost. And it immediately follows through, launching a massive sphere of destructive purple energy. His teammates are getting absolutely flattened by the shockwave from the S+ humanoid's attack. One of the other students realizes this thing can absorb star elements to power up, completely shocked by this trump card. This new form is so juiced up, the kid concludes even S-rankers would get stomped. This is not a fight humans can win. Completely unfazed, Dragon Gui just smirks at the threat, asking if it really thinks it can eat him. This dragon is absolutely thrilled, grinning as he declares it is finally time for a real death match. Up on a cliff, Hyoga watches as the S+ humanoid summons a massive pile of green monster reinforcements. A whole new army of green Evas starts to bubble up from the ground, ready to swarm our boy. Floating in the air, our dragon-possessed boy looks completely unimpressed by the sudden monster flash mob. This S humanoid immediately attacks, sending a massive whip of pink energy screaming towards him. Looking almost bored, he just stands his ground as the attack closes in. Instead of dodging, he just dives straight down, ready to punch this thing into next week. Their fists are just about to connect, a clash of pure blue and red energy. This impact is insane, sending a massive shockwave of energy blasting out in all directions. This clash creates a blinding flash of light, a miniature sun going off inside the cave. Not only has he stopped the punch cold, he's got a massive grin on his face, absolutely loving this. Now he's got the monster completely tangled up, saying this is what a real death match should feel like. Turns out the monster is also a battle junkie, laughing maniacally as it powers up even more. This entire cave is just crackling with their combined power, getting ready to explode. His classmates can only watch the light show from a distance, realizing the whole cave is about to come down on their heads. They are just staring in disbelief at this S-level brawl, with one asking if Gui was hiding this kind of power the whole time. His friend is completely lost, realizing this power is nothing like what Gui's ever shown. Another student wisely screams for everyone to get the hell out of there. This purple-haired girl agrees, saying their only job now is to survive and report this disaster. She points to the blocked exit, telling her friend to blast them away out of this death trap. Her friend powers up a massive ball of blue energy in her hand, ready to go, and unleashes it in a huge beam, aiming to clear a path for their escape. This rock wall completely shatters under the force of the blast. For a second, it looks like they have actually made a clean getaway. But Dragon Gui suddenly appears, blocking their path and telling them they are not going anywhere. He has got this absolutely psychotic grin, saying the audience has to stay for the finale, leaving the girls completely cornered and staring down a literal god of destruction. Just then, the S+ humanoid pops up behind him, asking if he is really ignoring his main opponent. It lands a surprise punch, but Dragon Gui catches it with his own fist. These two are locked in a stalemate, their combined power shaking the very air around them. Then Dragon Gui just unleashes a massive pillar of light straight into the ceiling, sending the monster flying back into a cloud of dust, calling him a fool for the cheap shot. Our dragon-possessed boy just scoffs, saying an S+ rank is meaningless against him. Then he turns back to the students, deciding there is still some fun to be had with them. And with a terrifying smile, he promises to torture them all just to watch Gui suffer from the inside total psycho. This girls can only watch in horror, realizing they have gone from the frying pan into the absolute inferno. Inside his own mind, Gui screams at the dragon about its promise not to hurt his friends. This dragon just laughs, asking if he really thought a king makes deals with ants, which is a solid no, by the way. Still trying to fight back, Gui's consciousness strains against the overwhelming power flowing past him. He can only scream in pure frustration, completely helpless to stop the psycho joyriding his body. With another burst of desperation, our boy makes a final frantic dash for the exit, and he just faceplants into the invisible wall again, getting a nice jolt for his troubles. His fist smacks uselessly against the barrier, not even making a single crack. Now he is just pounding on it with everything he has got, which is currently not very much. Our boy is reduced to yelling at the system window to give him his body back. Good luck with that tech support ticket. Completely dwarfed by the torrent of energy, he is now a prisoner in his own mind. This dragon's voice echoes, calling him useless and telling him to sit back and enjoy the show. Back in reality, Dragon Gui turns to the students, wondering how he should play with his new toys. His classmates are bruised and terrified but look like they are trying to stand their ground anyway. One of the guys is clutching a bloody cloth, clearly injured but still on his feet. Yelling at Gui or Kiraboshi, he begs him to snap out of it, completely unaware of the situation. Dragon Gui just scoffs, declaring he is the strongest species and not some weak little brat. This other students can only stare in absolute horror at this sudden and terrifying personality transplant. It finally clicks for the kid that maybe Gui is the strongest species they have heard about. A massive explosion of blue energy suddenly erupts from Dragon Gui's body, just to make a point. He stands there, hand raised, asking if they really think a mere human could wield this kind of power. This injured kid has a horrifying flashback, realizing this is the same strongest species power that wrecked his school. Dragon Gui just smirks, saying he's got a great idea, which is never a good sign for the heroes. His brilliant plan is to burn them all to ashes just like he did before. What a charmer. With his back to them, he unleashes a torrent of blue energy, ready to make good on his threat. A swirling vortex of pure blue energy gathers, promising a very bad day for everyone involved, and the attack has a name. Ice Star, which sounds way too pretty for what is about to happen. But suddenly, Dragon Gui is encased in giant ice crystals, completely frozen solid. From the student's view, he is just a shirtless dude stuck in a very fancy ice sculpture. Turns out it was Hyuga, the blue-haired girl, who tells everyone to run while she holds him off. Her friends can only stare in shock, calling out her name as she prepares for a solo stand. This injured student begs her to come with them, insisting they all have to survive together. She refuses, revealing she made a vow to stop Gui if he ever went rogue like this. Hyuga admits her ice prison will not last long, as Dragon Gui is already starting to break free. Instead of running, she turns to a blocked passage, preparing another massive spell. She unleashes 1,000 ice pillars, not at Dragon Gui, but at the cave wall itself. Massive ice spikes erupt everywhere, tearing through the rock with incredible force. This wall completely shatters in a huge explosion of ice and stone, and just like that, a new escape route is blasted open for the students. This others do not hesitate, making a break for it while yelling not to waste her sacrifice. Hyuga stays behind, hand outstretched, ready to face the monster alone to buy them time. Hyuga stands firm, having just trapped Dragon Gui in a massive ice prison. But that impressive ice sculpture lasts for all of 2 seconds before shattering completely. Dragon Gui emerges without a scratch, mockingly asking if she is done playing with water. Her jaw just drops, realizing her ultimate move was basically a party trick to him. He scoffs that mere ice was never going to work, and letting her friends escape is pointless, because his grand plan is to just burn the entire planet to ashes anyway, casual Tuesday stuff. Before that, though, he decides it is time for a little fun with his last opponent. Promising to torture her just to make Gui's consciousness suffer, this guy's got issues. Hyuga is visibly terrified but grits her teeth, refusing to back down. Stealing her resolve for a fight she knows she probably cannot win, she throws her hand forward, challenging the strongest species to bring it on. Unleashing all her power, she vows to stop him even if it costs her everything. Dragon Gui just smirks, complimenting her on her good star elements. What a creep. He is clearly just enjoying the show, finding her life-or-death struggle amusing. Demanding she entertain him, a massive burst of energy erupts from her position. He stands there glowing, condescendingly calling her little girl as he overpowers her. Suddenly, a system warning flashes. The dragon's power is at 0.9% and rising fast. Elsewhere, a blonde observer panics, realizing if it hits 1%, the seal will break. Which means the dragon's real body gets unleashed, and humanity is officially on the extinction list. This same observer gets blasted back by the sheer force of the energy surge, completely overwhelmed. Meanwhile, a system alert is counting down from 59 seconds to some kind of release, which cannot be good. This blonde observer is in full panic mode, desperately wondering how to stop this doomsday clock. Just then, the system offers a Hail Mary. Activate Apex Predator Reversal Mode. What? He is completely stunned, having no clue what this terrifying new option even does. And the fine print is brutal. Activating it means Gui's entire body will be consumed and disappear. Our observer is horrified, realizing the only way to win might be to literally erase his friend from existence. Yeah, disappear is one hell of a side effect for a last-ditch effort. All the while, the timer keeps ticking down to the strongest species being fully unleashed on the world. Back in the cave, Dragon Gui is just glowing with overwhelming power, towering over Hyuga. She realizes her Wideria ice attacks are useless against him since his raw power just cancels them out. Knowing she needs one perfectly concentrated shot to do any damage, she prepares for a final stand, but staring down that smug, glowing face, she seriously doubts she can even land a hit. Gritting her teeth, she focuses on the real Gui trapped inside that monster. A flashback reminds her of him saving her, saying you act because it is right, not because you are strong enough. With renewed determination, she decides she has no choice but to go all in on one last attack. She focuses all her remaining energy into a single hypercondensed point of ice. Dragon Gui actually looks impressed, commenting on her technique of focusing her star elements. Then he gets that psycho smirk and says, "Interesting, I will try it too, the ultimate flex." And in an instant, he creates a massive sphere of energy that makes her attack look like a firefly. Holding a literal sun in his hand, he looks ready to end this fight with a single devastating blow. Dragongui just holds a literal sun in his hand, looking way too pleased with himself. His fist clenches, condensing that insane power into a single, terrifying point. With a condescending grin, he points at Hyoga, calling her little girl just to be a jerk. He then asks if she really wants to pit her tiny ice cube against his Star Destroyer. Hyoga is absolutely fuming, but the blush of terror shows she knows he is not wrong. Her mind races, realizing a direct clash would just get her completely vaporized. Instead of taking the bait, she decides she has to find a way to hit him directly. But creating an opening against a god is, a little tricky. Just then, a massive explosion rips through the cavern wall nearby. And out of the dust stumbles a beat-up, green-haired guy S-ranker Ida. His face is pure rage as he finally accepts that Gui is the strongest species. Screaming Gui's other name, Ida launches himself forward in a blur of green energy. Dragon Gui just scoffs, calling him persistent but way too slow for this league. At the same time, the S-plus humanoid crashes down, also screaming about the strongest species. It is back for revenge, vowing to devour Gui to steal his power and get stronger. So now it is a free-for-all, with Ida calling both of them losers as he attacks. This monster's punch is stopped cold by one hand, with Dragon Gui looking bored. Meanwhile, Ida's own energy blast is right in his face, but it is not looking good for him. And with a casual flick, Dragon Gui swats Ida's attack away like a fly. Our boy now stands at the center of a chaotic brawl, effortlessly juggling two S-ranks. With a final, desperate scream, Hyoga shoves her hypercondensed ice attack forward. But she hesitates, realizing this all-or-nothing shot will probably take out Gui's body too. A flashback to Gui's words hits her, "Your worth is what you do, not what you are." Stomping her foot down, she makes her choice, screaming his name as she commits. She vows to do what she can, even if it means fighting the friend trapped inside that monster. Dragon Gui just roars at the little girl, but she pushes through the pain, determined to land this one hit. Her final attack blazes forward, a spear of pure ice aimed right at the monster's heart. It is a direct clash of wills as she shoves Pluto's star right into his energy sphere, and she actually connects, slamming the ice crystal right into Dragon Gui's chest. For a split second, Hyoga looks like she cannot believe it actually worked. Dragon Gui stumbles back, an ice shard sticking out of him, looking more annoyed than hurt. Then a severed arm goes flying, still clutching that massive ball of energy. Wait, whose arm is that? That detached limb becomes the center of a swirling vortex of pure destructive power. Below, Ida can only stare up as the energy bomb is about to go off right on top of them. He braces for impact, the raw power of the blast washing over his battered body. This entire cavern erupts in a massive explosion, threatening to bring the whole place down. Ida looks up in horror, realizing the cave is about to collapse on all of them. Dragon Gui just smirks through it all, casually noting she aimed for his heart. He is actually impressed her attack is strong enough to suppress his own star elements. With a psycho grin, he compliments her good ability before calling her little girl again what a tool. Hyoga is floored, finally understanding the sheer power of humanity's so-called strongest. Dragon Gui just smirks back, adding a little however just to rub salt in the wound. This ice shard in his chest is already being pushed out by his overwhelming energy. In an instant, his arm is completely regenerated, now sporting some brand new monster claws. He then mocks her, saying if she was 1 second faster, she might have actually stopped him. What a jerk. His entire body is now crackling with an even greater, more terrifying power. With a demonic grin, he announces it is finally time for the release everyone's been dreading. All Hyoga can do is stare in absolute horror, completely out of tricks and out of time. Elsewhere, the blonde observer is still agonizing over the Apex Predator reversal mode. That doomsday clock keeps ticking down, now under 50 seconds until the world ends. He knows activating this mode will erase the strongest species, but it'll take Gui with it. A brief flashback shows his motivation, a sick mother in a hospital bed. This system then throws a twisted moral choice at him, showing the people who will die if he fails. Gritting his teeth, he realizes that at this rate, his hesitation will get everyone killed anyway. Another memory surfaces, this one of a woman telling Gui his worth is defined by what he does for others. Our observer is sweating bullets, caught between saving the world and sacrificing his friend. But then a calm, determined smile spreads across his face. The decision is made. Vowing to do what he can, his hand moves toward the activation prompt for the reversal mode. With his mind made up, he presses the button, unleashing the ultimate terrible gambit. Stepping back from the screen, he can only watch as the irreversible process begins. Back in the cave, Dragon Gui's body erupts with that final, terrifying surge of power. With a demonic grin, he announces the release is finally happening, the world-ending one. He floats high above the cavern floor, a newly minted god looking down on his last two victims. All Hyoga can do is stare up in absolute horror, completely out of options and out of time. But he pauses, wondering why the ice in his heart is keeping his body from fully transforming. Then a wicked smile spreads across his face, clearly enjoying this tiny little roadblock to Armageddon. Declaring himself the strongest species, he boasts that absolutely no one can stop him now. His entire form crackles with raw energy, looking more like a true dragon than ever before. Promising to end this game with humanity, he is ready to regain his original form and burn the planet. He then points down at the two S-rankers, deciding they will be the first to get vaporized. Hyoga and Ida can only stand there, battered and bruised, staring up at their executioner. In a moment of twisted respect, he promises to make their deaths instant. What a nice guy. Hyoga finally breaks, admitting there is absolutely nothing more they can do to fight him. With a final, smug farewell, he conjures another one of his signature suns to end it all. But just as he is about to attack, a strange purple vortex erupts right out of his chest. He looks down in total shock, realizing a literal hole has just been punched through his body. Then a second one opens up, and the invincible monster actually starts screaming in pain. His eyes go wide with terror, recognizing this bizarre power from some other time. Screaming its name, he finally understands the Apex Predator reversal mode has been activated. Meanwhile, Hyoga and Ida just watch, having absolutely no clue what is happening anymore. In a split second, Ida's hand shoots out, grabbing Hyoga to pull her from the blast zone. He just throws her over his shoulder, completely ignoring her protests about what he is doing. Announcing a tactical retreat, he explains it is way faster if he just carries her out of there. With a final hold on, he kicks it into high gear, rocketing away in a blur of green energy. This two of them become a single streak, booking it through the collapsing cavern at top speed. He grimly admits that for now, running away is literally the only thing they can do. His logic is simple. The official plan is for all 10 S-rankers to gang up on the strongest species. Hyoga finally gets it, realizing the two of them alone never stood a chance to begin with. After finding a relatively safe spot, he finally sets her back down on her feet. She quickly thanks him for the rescue, insisting she can walk on her own now. He cannot resist a little jab, noting she looks slightly less of a mess than during the selection exam. But her focus is already back on the mission, vowing to stop Gui before he destroys humanity. As she asks him to wait, the cave ceiling continues to rain down rocks and debris. Back at Ground Zero, Dragon Gui is just screaming as the reversal mode continues to tear him apart. He is absolutely livid, realizing the Apex Predator's power has returned just as he was about to win. Even with literal holes punched through his body, he is somehow still floating there, looking defiant. Then a slow, psychotic grin spreads across his face. He actually finds this whole thing amusing. Declaring himself the king, he challenges whatever is attacking him to a true Apex Predator showdown. In a moment of horrifying realization, he screams that this is Kuriboshi Gui's own ability, and his own power surges to counteract it, trying to plug the holes from the inside out. Dragon Gui just flexes, his own power surging to fight back against whatever's trying to unexist him. With a psycho grin, he taunts his unseen foe, saying he will just regenerate from the damage. That purple energy keeps trying to delete him, but he is fighting it with his own power. Screaming his head off, he declares it is a game to see which one of them disappears first. So he just starts creating a mini-sun inside the hole to fight it from the inside out. More and more of these purple vortexes are ripping through his body, but the guy is still standing. His entire form erupts in a massive flare of cyan light, trying to overpower the reversal mode. Even as another hole opens up, he is just gritting his teeth, refusing to go down. Then comes the smug grin. He claims he has eaten this power before and can totally handle it. Laughing like a complete maniac, he declares this match is already his victory, which seems optimistic. This universe disagrees, sending a whole barrage of purple energy spears right through him. Suddenly, the scene shifts to some kind of void, with Dragon Gui facing a glowing blonde dude. This new guy is also sporting some fresh holes, noting that the release has finally stopped. Our boy is now in his full, terrifying dragon form, ready for whatever this is, but the purple energy beam just follows him, slamming right into the dragon's chest. This strongest species actually roars in pain, admitting the wound is getting worse. Uh-oh. This blonde observer just floats there, calmly asking Kid if he is feeling the same pain. Dragon Gui can only stare, wondering what this power is as the observer mentions the Apex Predator. With a tired smile, the observer basically says who knows, but this is the end for both of them. This dragon just snarls, clearly not a fan of the whole mutual destruction plan. Dragon Gui clutches his chest, finally experiencing pain and finding it deeply unpleasant. This blonde observer floats there, casually asking if this is the dragon's first time feeling anything. And the monster boasts that literally nothing has ever hurt him before. Talk about a fragile ego. Right on cue, another blast of that purple reversal energy slams right into his chest, tearing through his body as he lets out a genuine scream of agony for the first time. He is just gritting his teeth, completely overwhelmed by a sensation he cannot just regenerate away. In a shocking moment of clarity, he realizes this is what weak humans feel and just gives up. Our blonde observer just gives a knowing smile like he was expecting this all along, declaring that in a battle of will, he will never lose if it means protecting everyone else. Dragon Gui seems to actually process this, looking down for a moment in thought, before admitting that this will is actually something special, a rare compliment. He finally says the name Kuriboshi Gui, and the observer looks genuinely surprised to be recognized. That surprise quickly morphs into a confident, almost cocky grin, who then smugly says it took him long enough to realize who the real strongest species is. Oh, Dragon Gui does not like that one bit, his face twisting in pure rage, as the void around them fills with dozens of those purple deletion vortexes, which all converge on the dragon at once in a final, overwhelming barrage of power. This entire mental space is just consumed by a blinding flash of light. A system prompt then declares the Apex Predator reversal mode is now terminating. Back in reality, the cavern is violently collapsing, kicking up a massive cloud of dust and rock. Back outside, the entire mountain is shaking as the cavern starts to collapse in on itself. A trio of students can only watch in horror as the entrance completely gives way. One of them, looking pretty banged up, is desperately worried about Hyoga's fate. But just then, a boot slams down with authority as two figures emerge from the dust. It is Hyoga and Ida, sprinting out of the implosion just in the nick of time. Ida looks back, confirming to the others that they are both alive, which is a nice surprise. This relieved student is thrilled to see them, immediately asking about Kuriboshi Gui. His blonde friend, however, is freaking out, screaming that Gui is an Eva who tried to kill them all. This brown-haired kid just cannot accept it, looking completely torn. He remembers the kind, encouraging Gui who fought alongside him when he was weak, and he just flat-out refuses to believe his friend could be one of those monsters. Hyoga then drops the bombshell: Gui is both human and the strongest species, a secret she was keeping. This blonde girl instantly recognizes the dragon form from that other time it went on a rampage. Hyoga explains he had to release it to save them, but she admits she miscalculated his control over it. Ida just grits his teeth, looking absolutely furious about this whole mess. He scoffs that Gui is just some lame guy trying to act cool, which is why they vet people for the selection. After admitting they had to retreat, he vows they will be back with reinforcements to finish this. Right on cue, a huge dude with a tiny girl says he has already called for S-rankers led by the principal. But the purple-haired girl looks over at the wreckage, saying that might not be necessary anymore. They all turn to look, and where the epic battle was, there is now just a mountain of rubble. This purple-haired girl confirms both Gui and the strongest species have been eliminated, theorizing it is his ability. Hyoga just stares, completely unable to process that eliminated is the final word on the matter. His friend, however, just collapses to the ground, absolutely shattered by the news. This rest of the students just stand there looking grim, having somehow survived the unsurvivable. Ida then starts screaming at the kid to stand up, giving a classic "We protect humanity" pep talk. But Hyoga immediately shuts that down, reminding them they could not even scratch an S-class, let alone the big guy. Undeterred, Ida vows they will just train harder until they can defeat the strongest species themselves. And his little shonen protagonist speech actually seems to be working on the rest of the crew. Standing united in the crater, the whole squad seems ready to get back to the training arc. Hyoga, however, turns away from the group, her thoughts still fixed on Kuriboshi Gui. Her mind drifts to a memory of him giving her a simple, reassuring thumbs up. She recalls the time he literally carried her on his back to get her out of danger. Then a darker memory surfaces, him holding a bloodied weapon, looking deadly serious. It is followed by a much calmer moment of him with two women in a sunlit forest, and another of him in the middle of a fight, his little companion freaking out beside him. This montage ends on a shot of him in his uniform, giving another awkward but reassuring thumbs up. Hyoga remembers his core belief, that rank and power do not matter, only a person's actions do. Clutching her heart, she is convinced he has to be alive out there somewhere. Suddenly, the scene cuts to a lavish-looking building basking in the afternoon sun, and inside, a girl in a wheelchair looks out the window, whispering "no way" as if she felt it too. This girl in the wheelchair is still processing things, wondering if the strongest species really just disappeared. She realizes her precognition is breaking, a future she never foresaw is starting to unfold. And just then, a new vision slams into her mind, a chaotic storm of colorful lights. Looking out the window, she identifies them as 5 shooting star visions, and her calm completely shatters. We then jump forward 1 year to a city in chaos, with an emergency broadcast blaring about an EVA invasion. A massive, rocky EVA with glowing pink circuits is tearing up the streets, looking for a fight. Cowering in its path, a man holding a child is freaking out, realizing it is an S-class monster. He tries to comfort the kid, promising to protect her, a bold claim for a dude who is only an E-ranker. This EVA does not care about his pep talk, swinging a massive blade arm down to crush them both. With nowhere to run, the two can only scream as their final moment arrives. But suddenly, a pair of hands conjures a blast of freezing energy to intercept the attack, which forms into a massive ice spear called Pluto's Arrow, soaring through the air. This arrow scores a direct hit, slamming right into the EVA's face and stopping it cold. In an instant, the entire S-class monster is completely flash-frozen in a tomb of ice. This man and child are left staring in shock as a new arrival apologizes for being late. Turning around, he sees a blue-haired warrior with an S-rank armband has saved them. And it is none other than Hyoga, looking way more powerful and confident after the time skip. This little girl, completely unafraid now, runs over to thank her new hero for the rescue. Hyoga actually shows a softer side, kneeling down to comfort the kid and tell her it is okay. She then points them toward a secured area, calmly directing the civilians to safety. With the city under siege, Hyoga's boot hits the pavement with authority. Her squad, including some familiar faces, is here to clean up the EVA mess. That father and daughter are just thrilled to still be breathing, thanking her profusely. She gives them a gentle wave, a far cry from the cold person she used to be. But the party's just getting started as another EVA slams its blade into the street, and it brought friends, a whole swarm of these spidery, pink-lined monsters. Hyoga rallies her team, ordering them to exterminate the pests and protect their city. Her 2 Aranker teammates, Hazel and Kaney, immediately charge into the fray. Kaney starts gathering some kind of gross, shadowy gunk for an attack, unleashing his black bubble bullet, which sounds way less threatening than it looks. It scores a direct hit, causing a decent bit of damage to one of the EVAs, which only seems to annoy the 2 giant ones now towering over him, so much for that. Meanwhile, Hazel is winding up for a punch, screaming her lungs out for extra power. She unleashes an explosive, penetrating strike, because subtlety is for other people. Under Hyuga's command, the squad coordinates their attacks to push the Evas back. Soon enough, they are standing before the last of the monsters, now a frozen lawn ornament. Hyuga immediately gets on the comms to report back to headquarters, confirming that District 67 is clear and all EVA threats have been neutralized. With the job done, HQ tells them to head back to base immediately. And Kaney just breaks down crying, admitting how terrifying that was. Our brave warrior, everyone. Hazel is genuinely surprised that Kaney got strong enough to restrain an S-class monster in one shot. He credits Ida's hardcore training, while Hazel admits her own S-ranker mentor put them through hell. Kaney then gets this super shady grin, teasing that there is more to the story. But it is just him vowing to never feel that powerless frustration from a year ago ever again. This mention of their past failure gets Hazel all riled up about Kuraboshi Gui always trying to act cool. Hyuga actually agrees, adding that he tries way too hard to be the lone hero. With a small smile, she says she expects him to just pop up randomly one day, so they better be ready. She then orders the team to get to work turning the neutralized Evas into element stones. Hazel immediately volunteers to blast them apart, and Kaney has to point out they'd get vaporized too. Great plan. For a moment, Hyuga just stands on the rubble, surveying the quiet aftermath of the battle. A quick infodump reveals that since the strongest species appeared, EVA activity has intensified, but humanity has been leveling up thanks to intense training from all the S-rankers. They have also developed new gear from element stones, allowing them to track the monsters. All these advancements have finally let humanity launch a massive counteroffensive. Back in the present, Hyuga looks at her team and thinks they are doing pretty well so far. Her mind then turns to the grim prophecy that 5 more strongest species are due to arrive this year. Suddenly, an emergency channel opens up on Hazel's comms from another S-ranker. This alert is about the operation to liberate District 1, which just got underway. And apparently it is already over, with a joint S-ranker team having completely crushed the Evas. Hazel and Kaney are just stunned they finished the mission half a day ahead of schedule. S-rankers do not mess around. A silver-haired S-ranker announces they are starting city reconstruction early, looking pretty pleased with himself. We get a full lineup of humanity's top S-rankers, all striking a pose like they are on a recruitment poster. This pink-haired girl is hyped, celebrating their big win in retaking the strategic District 1. Her red-headed teammate, ranked 6th, is just pissed off about the Evas trashing their planet. This masked 4th ranker just calmly vows to kill all the Evas, a man of few very edgy words. Then the 8th ranked kid strikes a dramatic pose, promising they can totally eradicate the monsters. Their leader, the 2nd ranked Siki Yuzin, vows to wipe out the vermin without getting complacent. With a collective yeah, the newly liberated city stands tall and completely monster-free. But one of the girls feels a sudden chill, wondering if things are going a little asterisk too well. This scene then cuts to a flag waving against the sky, signaling a major tone shift. It is flying over a memorial stone for the 8th Special Forces, so much for that victory party. And look who is standing there, our boy Ida, who is somehow now humanity's 1S ranker. He is addressing the entire student body of Hatch High School, all gathered in a courtyard. Ida's big speech marks the 1-year anniversary of the attack that killed 58 of their own. He credits Kuraboshi Gui with sealing the strongest species, as Hyuga listens from the crowd. This official story is that Gui also disappeared along with the monster to stop its rampage for good. Standing before the memorial, Ida calls on everyone to renew their vow to protect humanity for the fallen. Some of the students are getting emotional during the moment of silence for their lost friends. Hyuga, however, just clutches her heart, still certain that Kuraboshi is alive somewhere. Even his old friends are there, quietly paying their respects to the guy they once called a monster. Ida finishes his big memorial speech, boasting that they are all strong enough to one-shot a class Evas now. But then he drops the bad news. A prophecy says 5 more strongest species are coming this year. So to face this new apocalypse, everyone just has to train even harder, obviously. He announces that all S-rankers will now personally conduct special training for the Hatch students, and the entire student body just goes absolutely wild, completely buying into the hype. One of the students is all fired up, ready for the training arc to begin, when a voice from the crowd casually asks what kind of event this is. This student turns around, his face a perfect picture of "I have just seen a ghost." Because it is Kuraboshi Gui, wondering if he is famous while the kid stammers about him being dead. A blue-haired girl immediately tackles him in a hug, screaming that he is alive after all, and Gui is just standing there sweating, completely blanking on who this is for a second. She is just a mess of happy tears, so relieved that he actually made it back. He gives her a gentle smile, thanking her for trying to save him back then. Which is immediately followed by her powering up to lecture him about being so reckless. Suddenly, Kaney and Senri come running up, shouting his name in total disbelief. And it turns out the whole selected members squad is here, all safe and sound. One of them even points out that Gui got buffer and he is just like, "Oh yeah, I noticed." Meanwhile, Ida and the other S-rankers are just watching this reunion, completely dumbfounded. Kaney is still trying to process it, insisting she saw him disappear with her own eyes. And there is his little monster buddy telling Gui to stop dawdling and get on with it. Hyuga just stares at the little white fluff ball, completely confused about what this strange creature is. To Gui's surprise, she can actually see his little monster buddy, who is now hiding behind him. Meanwhile, Hazel is having a full-on meltdown, wondering why any of this is happening. And yeah, that little guy is the soul of the strongest species, now with a physical body for some reason. Suddenly, streaks of green energy flash across the courtyard as someone makes a move, and it is Ida, humanity's one S-ranker, who just grabbed our boy by the throat. This masked S-ranker dramatically vows to kill all Evas, terrifying the little monster half to death. In a flash, the entire S-ranker squad surrounds Gui, looking ready for a fight. Hazel immediately realizes she has made a huge mistake getting the S-rankers involved. Ida threatens to take his head off if he moves, demanding he answer some questions. He starts grilling Gui, asking why he is with a talking Eva that is supposed to be the strongest species. This threat is clear. Depending on his answer, the S-rankers might just kill them both right here. Hyoga is just stunned, realizing a whole year has passed since she last saw him. Through the chokehold, Gui explains he only became aware of the time skip 3 days ago. Apparently, he was collapsed in a cave right alongside the humanoid monster he sealed. This masked S-ranker seems shocked that other people can even perceive the little creature now. Gui admits he does not know why he is alive. He just went home and then came to school. Hazel just watches on, sweating nervously as this whole reunion goes completely off the rails. Using some kind of celestial observation power, Ida confirms that this is, in fact, Kuraboshi Gui. There's just one little catch, however. His star element level is a big fat 0. Ida adds that the little monster is also level 0, which offends the creature greatly. Do not you dare lump him in with the weakling. A green-haired S-ranker named Racin smirks at the unranked duo, clearly not impressed. Ida just stares daggers, still processing this absolutely wild turn of events. But the 8th ranked kid pipes up, arguing that rank does not matter when you are a walking apocalypse. He reminds everyone how the strongest species killed 58 students and nearly wiped them all out. And even though Gui was a hero back then, bringing the monster back changes the entire equation. This kid points right at Gui, declaring the only option is to kill them both if there is any risk. So much for a warm welcome. Kuraboshi Gui just gives him this dead-eyed stare, completely unbothered by the death threat. All the S-rankers are on high alert, their armbands a clear sign of the authority they are about to flex. With a chilling smile, Gui just asks, "Kill me," like he is being offered a cup of tea. Then he challenges the entire S-ranker squad to try it if they think they can. Our boy's got a death wish. Hyoga is completely stunned, feeling his entire aura shift into something terrifying. His presence suddenly feels exactly like the strongest species he supposedly sealed. Uh-oh. And then he snaps out of it, looking confused and asking if he just said something weird out loud. Gui immediately starts waving his hands, trying to take it all back. "Never mind, please do not kill me." He quickly tries to prove he is just a normal human, promising he is not a threat anymore. Holding up his hand, he begs them to just look at the proof he is offering. Hyoga's eyes go wide, absolutely shocked by what she sees on his hand. She realizes the black hole that was once there has completely vanished and his aura is normal again. And Gui confirms it, his sealing ability is gone, leaving him totally powerless. Gui confirms that yeah, this little fluffball is definitely the strongest species, but he promises the tiny apocalypse beast is no longer dangerous, who looks very pouty about it. This green-haired S-ranker Racin is not convinced, demanding some actual proof. And Gui's big defense is basically, "I have no proof, just a really good feeling." A truly airtight argument. A quick flashback shows the monster's terrifying true form, acknowledging Gui as something special. With a blindingly innocent smile, he just insists that his little buddy is totally fine now. This gets the monster all flustered, sprouting tiny devil wings in embarrassment, so not threatening at all. Suddenly, a massive blast of yellow energy erupts out of nowhere. This other S-rankers are completely caught off guard by the sudden attack, because the 8th ranked kid Akira decides he has heard enough and is just gonna kill the monster himself. Racin tries to stop him, but Gui just looks on, completely blindsided by the kid's lack of chill. Akira screams they're facing 5 more of these things and cannot risk having a traitor in their midst. He then launches himself forward in a streak of lightning as Gui tries to talk him down, but our boy dodges the attack with impossible speed, letting it slam into the ground. In an instant, Akira is right back in his face, screaming for him to die, and a massive explosion engulfs Gui and everyone standing near him. Hyoga screams for him to run, absolutely terrified that he is about to be killed. This other S-rankers just watch in shock, realizing he just dodged their fastest member. Even Gui is confused, wondering how his body just moved on its own like that. Akira closes in again, furious he dodged, while Gui begs him to just listen for a moment. Gui is totally confused, wondering what is happening to his body, because to him the S-ranker's attack looks like it is moving in slow motion, and he just casually sidesteps a lightning-fast chop that should have killed him. This other S-rankers note that he dodged an electric scalpel, a move he should not be able to survive. So Akira just gets angrier, unleashing a full-on thunder roar electric shock attack. But Gui's body is just moving on its own, seeing every single electric arc perfectly. Hyoga is absolutely floored, watching him dodge every single one of the S-ranker's attacks. She cannot figure out how the supposedly powerless Gui is pulling this off. Meanwhile, his little monster buddy just puffs out his chest, thinking just as I planned. Even Gui is weirded out, thinking this should feel a lot more dangerous than it does. Akira just keeps screaming about damn Evas, completely losing his cool. And then Gui gets this terrifying grin, thinking this is actually kind of fun, so much for being harmless. In the next instant, he catches Akira's electrified fist like it is nothing. He notes the electricity just stings a bit while Akira struggles to get free. With that same creepy smile, he tells the S-ranker to stop struggling. He insists he does not want to fight while crushing the kid's wrist, a very mixed message. Akira is completely stunned, unable to believe he is being held so easily. Suddenly, a pair of glowing cyan eyes appear in Akira's mind, and he is face to face with the terrifying true form of the strongest species. This mental shock sends him collapsing to the ground, screaming in absolute terror. Gui just stands there, totally baffled, as Akira trembles on the ground asking what happened. This other S-rankers are completely lost, pointing out that all he did was grab the kid's arm. His little monster buddy chimes in, saying he had a feeling this would happen. Turns out their souls and bodies have somehow got all mixed up together. A piece of the monster's soul is now in Gui, and a piece of Gui's is in the monster. Gui is just trying to process this absolutely insane piece of information. And the little guy drops the bombshell: our boy is basically a strongest species now. This news is received with the appropriate level of existential screaming, because forget gaining trust, he is now officially on humanity's most wanted list. This tiny apocalypse beast just confirms it again, calling him a strongest species by name. At that moment, Ida and the S-rankers surround him, declaring him a threat to be restrained. Our boy looks completely cornered, the situation spiraling out of control yet again. Suddenly, a voice calls for them to wait as a wheelchair rolls into view. Ida turns, annoyed at the interruption during such a critical moment for humanity's survival. His annoyance turns to pure shock as he recognizes the person in the chair. Because it is the Foreseer, a girl named Unagi Banri in a wheelchair. She immediately vouches for Gui, insisting he is not an enemy and telling them to stand down. Senri, completely out of the loop, just asks who this new S-ranker is. And Hazel, the eye-patch S-ranker, cheerfully announces that is her twin sister. Gui is just floored by this revelation since he thought Senri was an only child. Plot twist for everyone. Hazel explains the twins' power combo: she sees the present while her sister Banri sees the future. Because Banri foresaw the first apocalypse beast, they have been treated as national treasures since childhood. But her own precognition is spotty, which is why she completely missed the monster that ate Gui. She also missed the 5 other city-wrecking monsters that showed up but just got a new vision. Hyuga and the red-haired S-ranker are completely stunned by this sudden, terrifying info dump, and that vision was of Gui looking like his old self fighting one of the strongest species. Raisin, the green-haired S-ranker, seems deeply unimpressed by this new prediction. Turns out their powers sync up. When Hazel saw Gui in the present, Banri glimpsed the future. Banri calmly addresses the squad, acknowledging their totally valid concern that Gui is a walking doomsday event. But she declares this human-monster hybrid is actually the key to humanity's survival. Our boy just timidly raises his hand, completely lost in this debate about his own existence. He asks the million-dollar question: what even is a strongest species and why is everyone freaking out? So Banri decides it is time for a quick Apocalypse 101 lesson, starting from the top. A handy chart explains the power levels. An S-ranker can solo an S-class EVA no problem. Then you have got the S-plus class EVAs, which require a whole team of S-rankers just to fight. And at the top of the food chain are the strongest species, where victory is a big fat question mark. His little monster buddy just puffs out his chest, looking way too proud of his terrifying power level. A flashback reveals the first attack 10 years ago wiped out 9 S-rankers in one go. On top of that, over 100 A-rankers died, proving a single beast can push humanity to extinction. Which is exactly why they need Gui, the one guy who is a mix of both human and monster. And right on cue, some other S-ranker's wrist device starts blaring with a special alert, because a massive red beam of pure destruction is currently slicing down from the sky. This blast absolutely obliterates a city district in a blinding flash of light. This new apocalypse is happening just 50 kilometers away from the school. A massive shockwave tears through the streets, sending the local defense squad flying. Their ranker captain, a guy named Suzumu, looks up in horror, hoping it is just an EVA. But his alert confirms it is an S-plus class threat, which is way above his pay grade. In fact, the power level is completely off the charts, ordering all rankers to just run. From the smoke emerges a terrifying, armored dragon, one of the other 5 strongest species. Suzumu can barely process it, realizing he is staring down a legendary dragon-type monster. With a deafening roar, the beast slams its head into the pavement, shattering the ground. It glares down at the tiny humans, looking extremely ready for a snack. His subordinates are screaming for their captain, completely frozen in absolute terror. They finally get the memo and start shouting for a full evacuation. A little late for that, guys. Suddenly, one of the soldiers hears a strange noise coming from the monster itself. A bright light starts glowing intensely along the dragon's armored spine. Then a massive beam of energy erupts from its back, shooting straight up into the sky. But the beam seems to coalesce right on top of the dragon's head, forming a person. And standing there is a newly formed horned man, looking very confused and very naked. He touches his throat, struggling to speak, as if he has just been born into this world. This ranker captain just gawks, asking why his own Captain Yoshino is emerging from a city-destroying monster. This monster wearing Yoshino's face is just getting used to his new body, looking pretty pleased with himself. He strikes a pose, proudly announcing he built this body from the DNA of someone he devoured, a real artist. Suzumu's expression just screams that he has processed the information and regrets all his life choices. From his perch on the dragon, the monster captain looks down at the tiny, screaming snack on the pavement. With a grin that promises nothing good, he declares he is here to enjoy himself on this new planet. This dragon's eye glows ominously as the monster clarifies what fun means to him. And that fun is native species hunting, as he launches himself directly at Suzumu in a blur. In a flash, he has got the captain by the throat, cheerfully announcing his plan to hunt the other strongest species. His ultimate goal, he says with glowing red eyes, is to eat them both and become king of the universe, so you know small goals.